Chapter 176. Advancing to the corporeal yang stage, wherever the blood shadow passed, a bloody stench would be emitted, causing people to feel nauseous. Blood escape. I did not expecting Shuelua to use such a secret technique that harms others without benefiting himself, Gu Tian said with narrowed eyes as he stood in the deep pit, looking at the black spot that had disappeared into the distance. Blood escape was a technique that consumed one's essence blood to increase one's potential, allowing one's speed to reach an extreme level. However, this secret technique had a huge side effect on one's body. Therefore, very few warriors would use this secret technique unless it was a matter of life and death. Gu Tian also knew that he would not be able to catch up with Ying Shuelua, who had used blood escape. Therefore, he did not chase after him. Just as Gu Tian was deep in thought, a huge aura suddenly came from the empty ground not far away. Turning his head, he immediately discovered that there were traces of cracks on the surface of the giant cocoon on the empty ground. They covered the surface like a spider web. At the same time, an aura was being emitted from the giant cocoon. Moreover, as the number of cracks increased, the aura became increasingly powerful. Crack. Finally, a sharp sound was suddenly emitted from the giant cocoon. Immediately, the giant white cocoon collapsed inch by inch, revealing the figure of a young man. Boom! The moment the giant cocoon shattered, the aura it emitted also reached its peak. At the same time, the fire symbol on Zhuowen's left hand flickered. The Nirvana demon flame contained in the symbol immediately whizzed out, transforming into a black skull that was dozens of feet in size around his body. Sizzle! Sizzle! The temperature instantly rose. The entire empty ground was like an oven at this moment. Transparent steam slowly floated up. Many warriors began to perspire under such high temperature. What a rich yang qi! It seems that Zhuowen is about to make a breakthrough. Gu Tian's eyes flickered as he said. Zhuowen's cultivation had already reached the level of half a step to corporeal yang stage. Now that he had entered the mysterious understanding stage, his comprehension and yuan power had reached an extremely terrifying level. His advancement to the corporeal yang stage was within Gu Tian's expectations. It seems that this brat is about to advance. Looking at his intention, he should be using the Nirvana demon flame to form a real armor. This brat is quite courageous. The Nirvana demon flame is quite powerful. However, it is not so easy to form a real armor. On the high platform, Ling Ju stood beside the 9th commandery princess. Her eyes were fixed on the young man below and she smiled faintly. Yes. This fellow is a little too arrogant. The Nirvana demon flame has a demonic nature within it. It is actually not suitable to be used to form a real armor. Later on, when this brat forms it, he will suffer. The 9th regional princess' pretty eyes rotated slightly as she coldly laughed. However, regardless of whether it was the 9th princess or Lingju, they did not know that Zhuowen possessed a treasure like the holy ice flame symbol on his body. Moreover, the Nirvana demon flame had already submitted to Zhuowen under the effect of the holy ice flame symbol. How could it turn against Zhuowen now? Just as everyone was having their own thoughts, the huge black flame skull on the empty ground suddenly roared. Immediately, it burst apart in front of everyone's shocked eyes. It split into countless small black flame skulls and scrambled to attach themselves to the surface of Zhuowen's body. Sizzle sizzle. In just a short while, the surface of Zhuowen's body was covered by countless black flames. These black flames continued to wiggle on his body. Very quickly, they formed a black armor. The black armor had an endless amount of black flames burning on it. The chest of the armor was actually a ferocious skull. On the shoulder armor, there were even black-colored bone spikes. Moreover, there were many similar black bone spikes on this black armor. The shoulder armor, elbows, spine, and knees all had these strange black bone spikes. Moreover, the surface of the bone spikes was constantly burning with black flames. Zhuowen's mask was actually the front of a skull. It looked ferocious and mighty. It could be said that Zhuowen, who was wearing this armor, was simply a killing machine. The bone spikes all over his body were all his weapons. The moment this ferocious armor was formed, a hot aura suddenly emitted from Zhuowen's body. This aura had completely surpassed the half-step to corporeal yang stage. Obviously, Zhuowen had successfully advanced to the corporeal yang stage. On the high platform, the 9th commandery princess looked at Zhuowen, who had instantly formed the armor. Her pretty face could not help but be stunned. Immediately, a flush involuntarily appeared on her cheeks. She actually revealed an embarrassed and angry expression. This fellow is purposely looking for trouble. The 9th commandery princess waved her fist as she curled her lips and said hatefully. Just a moment ago, she had solemnly said that Zhuowen would suffer a lot when he used the Nirvana demon flame to form the armor. However, who knew that Zhuowen had successfully formed the armor just as her voice sounded? This caused her to feel a little embarrassed. Lingju, who was beside her, also laughed dryly. After all, he was the one who had brought up the topic earlier. However, the gaze he used to look at Zhuowen had finally changed. It seemed that the little fellow in front of him had always exceeded his expectations. The moment the armor was formed, Zhuowen's cultivation level had reached the first level corporeal yang stage. However, at this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were still tightly shut. There were no signs of him opening them. It has already been 15 minutes. Why is this fellow not showing any signs of waking up? Isn't it said that when a martial artist enters the Xian opening stage for the first time, he can only last for 15 minutes before he is forcefully withdrawn from the Xian opening stage? Looking at Zhuowen, who still did not open his eyes, the 9th commandery princess held her chin with her jade-like hand and said with some surprise. Lingju's gaze also became serious. He looked at the young man below, who still had his eyes closed. An unbelievable thought suddenly surfaced in his mind. What the commandery princess said is somewhat reasonable. When a martial artist enters the Xian opening stage for the first time, he will be forcefully withdrawn within 15 minutes. Those who can last for more than 15 minutes in the Xian opening stage basically have entered the Xian opening stage a few times. Lingju trembled slightly as he spoke a somewhat absurd fact. Puff! The 9th commandery princess, who was about to drink tea, suddenly spat out the tea in her mouth when she heard Lingju's words. She did not care about the loss of composure on her face. She looked at Lingju in shock and said, "You are saying that this is not the first time Zhuowen has entered the Xian opening stage? That is to say, before this, he has already entered this Xian opening stage? I remember that this fellow is only 16 years old. He is about the same age as me." Lingju nodded slightly. This time, his gaze was finally filled with shock. If it was as he guessed in his heart, the young man in front of him was indeed somewhat terrifying. I have also read some ancient books about the Xian opening stage. It was clearly mentioned that when a martial artist enters the Xian opening stage for the first time, no matter how heaven-defying his talent is, he will not be able to stay in the Xian opening stage for more than 15 minutes. If a martial artist can stay in the Xian opening stage for more than 15 minutes, it is basically not his first time entering the Xian opening stage. How is it possible? Big Brother and Second Brother's talent is already monstrous. Until now, they have only entered the Xian opening stage once. However, this fellow has already entered the Xian opening stage several times. Does this mean that this fellow is even more monstrous than them? The 9th commandery princess murmured to herself as she covered her cherry lips with her jade-like hand. Lingju, who was beside her, lowered his head slightly and remained silent. Apparently, he had acquiesced to the 9th commandery princess's words. On the open ground, as time went by, the pneuma in the surrounding area was almost completely sucked out by Zhuowen. This enormous pneuma, without exception, flowed into Zhuowen's body. With the influx of the enormous pneuma, coupled with the stimulation of the law of heaven and earth, Zhuowen's qi was growing at an astonishing speed. Bang! 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 3 soft sounds were heard. Immediately, the qi in Zhuowen's body shot up to an astonishing level like a rocket. His qi also rose from level 1 of the corporeal yang realm to level 4 of the corporeal yang realm. Level 4 of the corporeal yang realm? Looking at Zhuowen, whose strength had suddenly soared, Gu Tian's face could not help but twitch. Since when was it so easy to break through to the corporeal yang stage? In the blink of an eye, he had already broken through 4 stages. And from the looks of it, it seemed that he was not going to give up. Zhuowen's monstrous speed of advancement caused an uproar among the people below the stage. They didn't even know what had happened. All they saw was that the youth on the open ground had soared from the half-step corporeal yang realm to the 4th layer corporeal yang realm in the blink of an eye. After breaking through to level 4 of the corporeal yang realm, the growth of Zhuowen's qi slowed down. After a while, he reached level 5 of the corporeal yang realm. When he reached level 5 of the corporeal yang realm, Zhuowen's qi finally calmed down and finally stabilized. When Zhuowen's qi calmed down, he slowly opened his tightly shut eyes. At the same time, the laws of heaven and earth around him receded like the tide. As the laws of heaven and earth receded, the mountain-like pressure on the open ground also disappeared. Some of the weaker cultivators, who were forced to their knees by the pressure, let out a sigh of relief. However, when these cultivators looked at the young figure on the open ground, their gazes were filled with fear and respect. They knew that the powerful pressure was caused by the young man before them. When Zhuowen opened his eyes, a trace of confusion appeared in his eyes. He looked around and realized that countless gazes were gathered on him. The confusion on his face became even more intense. What's going on? Where the hell did old dogging go? With a doubtful expression, Zhuowen asked probingly. Chapter 177. Refusal. Thanks to Gu Tian's explanation, Zhuowen also understood what had happened when he had inadvertently entered the mystic comprehending state. Zhuowen, you have to be careful of Ying Shui Luo. He will do anything to achieve his goal. If you don't get rid of him today, he will be a disaster in the future. In Rattan Armor City, Ying Shui Luo won't act recklessly. I'm just afraid that when you leave Rattan Armor City, that old man will find you alone. After explaining, Gu Tian reminded him. Zhuowen nodded and smiled. Thank you for your advice, City Lord. I will be careful. However, when Zhuowen lowered his head, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Ying Shui Luo had disregarded the rules of the battle for the quota and attacked him. Zhuowen naturally could not let this go. If there was a chance, it would be Zhuowen who would look for that old man. Looking at Zhuowen's flickering eyes, Gu Tian knew that Zhuowen did not take his warning to heart. However, with the talent that Zhuowen had shown, he was not too worried. After all, when he was at the half-step corporeal yang realm, Zhuowen was able to kill an initial human king realm warrior. Now, Zhuowen's strength had skyrocketed to the 5th level of the corporeal yang realm. Even if he was not a match for Ying Shui Luo, it would not be difficult for him to protect himself. Thinking of this, the worry on Gu Yuetian's face faded away. He tilted his head and looked in the direction of the 9th Commandery Princess. He cupped his hands respectfully and said, 9th Commandery Princess, since you are the host of this competition, the final decision will be left to you. On the stage, the 9th Commandery Princess smiled and said, the result is self-evident. The city governor's office has won. Therefore, the remaining places belong to the city governor's office. Hearing the 9th Commandery Princess's words, many people in the governor's mansion cheered. Gu Xian and Gu Yu looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Gu Tian also let out a sigh of relief, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up. The city lord's mansion had finally redeemed its reputation in this competition, and all the credit was naturally due to the young man beside him. While countless people were cheering in the city lord's mansion's seating area, on another high platform, Hu Zhao's gaze turned solemn. He was silent for a while, before he softly sighed and said, I never imagined that such a genius would appear in the city lord's mansion. With this kid's talent, I'm afraid that he will shine in the Origin Chi Tower battle in 2 years. Hu Wuying, who was beside him, had a determined expression in his eyes. He said, "Master, this disciple will work even harder. I will not bring shame to the Tiger Ben Gate." No. Since this child, Zhuo Wen, was able to enter the profound comprehension realm, it means that this child's natural talent is already comparable to the geniuses of those super cities. Master's purpose in saying these words is not for you to compare with him. Instead, I want you to understand that you must build a good relationship with him in the Origin Chi Tower battle in 2 years. Speaking up to this point, Wu Xiao suddenly paused for a moment before slowly opening his mouth. Master has a premonition that this child might be able to enter the top 100 in the Yuan Chi Tower battle. Following this child is definitely a wise choice. When Hu Wuying heard these words, a look of horror immediately surfaced on his face. He naturally knew very well what the top 100 in the Origin Chi Tower battle meant. One must know that there were tens of thousands of factions in Muqin Prefecture, so the number of contestants participating in the Origin Chi Tower battle would definitely exceed tens of thousands. Among so many contestants, if one could enter the top 1,000, he or she would be able to receive resources from the House of Marquis Qin. And if one could stand out from so many geniuses and enter the top 100, he or she would be considered a genius among geniuses. And these top 100 geniuses would have the qualifications to participate in the Battle of the 9 Counties. In other words, they would have the qualifications to compete with the countless top geniuses of the Qing Xian Empire. At the same time, these top 100 geniuses would naturally receive resources unconditionally provided by the House of Marquis Qin. Spiritual treasures, secret techniques, armor techniques, elixirs, and other precious things like these would be provided unconditionally by the House of Marquis Qin. The ultimate goal was naturally for these top 100 geniuses to obtain good results in the Battle of the 9 Counties. Hu Wuying's eyes abruptly narrowed as he stared at the figure standing on the ground below. He didn't expect that his master would have such a high evaluation of Zhuo Wen, to the point where he actually compared the former to the peak geniuses of the Azure Mystic Empire. But when he thought of the young man's heaven-defying performance, his throbbing heart slowly calmed down. Looking at the cheering crowd below, the 9th Commandery Princess's beautiful eyes flashed a trace of craftiness. She giggled and said, "But I haven't finished speaking yet." As soon as she finished speaking, the crowd quieted down again. Everyone's eyes were focused on the girl with a crafty expression on her face. Zhuowen frowned as he looked at the crafty face of the 9th Commandery Princess. A sense of foreboding arose in his heart. Zhuowen knew a little about the character of the 9th Commandery Princess. Although the 9th Commandery Princess looked like a 15 or 16-year-old girl, under her innocent appearance, there was a deep scheming heart. She was like a poisonous snake hiding in the dark. If one was not careful, one would suffer a great loss. The 9th Commandery Princess looked at Zhuowen with her beautiful eyes. She smiled brightly and said, "He he. Zhuowen, your talent and performance has greatly exceeded this princess's expectations, so this princess admires you very much. Now, in front of everyone, I formally invite you to join the House of Marquis Qin." Before Zhuowen could answer, the 9th Commandery Princess said again, "Perhaps you still don't know my conditions. Let me tell you frankly. If you agree, I promise you can directly become a seed disciple of the Marquis Mansion. This is the highest treatment among all the disciples who join the House of Marquis Qin. You should know that every year, there are tens of thousands of people who want to join the House of Marquis Qin. But there are only 9 who can become a seed disciple. The so-called seed disciple is the last disciple of my father, Marquis Qin. In terms of martial arts, you can get personal guidance from my father. In addition, the seed disciple can get a group of elite cavalrymen to protect him. All the resources in the Marquis Mansion, as long as you have permission, you can get them at any time. With your talent, under the cultivation of the House of Marquis Qin, you can reach the Heavenly King realm in just 2 years. Even among the contestants of the Tower of Vitality battle, this kind of strength is a peak existence. Therefore, joining our Muqin Marquis residence will bring you unimaginable benefits in the Tower of Vitality battle 2 years later. Speaking of this, the ninth commandery princess lowered her eyelids and suddenly became silent. She just quietly looked at the young man below. After the ninth commandery princess finished speaking, there was an uproar on the stage and off the stage. The originally quiet open space became noisy at this time. As the strongest man in Muqin County, Marquis Qin's strength had reached the mysterious fourth venerable realm. In the whole Muqin County, there was no one who could match him. Naturally, there were countless people who wanted to become the disciple of such an overlord. However, to become the disciple of such an overlord was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Only those with heaven-defying talent were qualified to become the last disciple of such an overlord. As the saying goes, 3 years of hard work is not as good as a teacher's guidance. With the guidance of such a strong man at any time, there was no doubt that one could avoid many detours on the road of martial arts. Even if one did not mention the little benefit of Muqin Marquis' guidance, the Muqin Marquis manor was the #1 faction in Muqin County. Its rich foundation had already exceeded everyone's imagination. Therefore, just this foundation alone was able to allow the training speed of many warriors to increase by many times. No one had expected that the ninth commandery princess would propose such a tempting offer to the young man standing quietly in front of them. Although Zhuowen's performance just now was indeed very dazzling, it seemed that it was not enough to be promoted to a seed disciple of the house of Marquis Qin. However, many of the sensible people had already faintly guessed that the reason why the ninth commandery princess was so enthusiastic to invite Zhuowen to be a seed disciple was probably related to the inexplicable mysterious realm that Zhuowen had just entered. At this time, Guyu Tian, who was standing beside Zhuowen, was dumbfounded. Even he did not expect that the ninth commandery princess would propose such a tempting offer. Even he had no reason to refuse such an offer. Unfortunately, he did not have the terrifying talent of Zhuowen. Guyu Tian licked his dry lips and said to Zhuowen in a trembling voice, "Zhuowen, this is a rare opportunity. You have to seize it well. As long as you agree to join the house of Marquis Qin, you will soar to the sky." Slightly lowering his head, Zhuowen's heart was also not calm. Although he did not know much about the house of Marquis Qin, he could not refuse the ninth commandery princess's offer. However, just when Zhuowen's heart was burning with passion, Xiao Hei's voice came at the right time. "Young man, you have the secret of the holy charm of ice and fire. If you become the disciple of Marquis Qin, I am afraid that not only will you lose the secret of the holy charm, but also my existence will be discovered. If that is the case, I am afraid that you will be in a very bad situation." Zhuowen's heart shivered when he heard these words. The fiery heat in his eyes slowly disappeared. He took a deep breath and replied, "You are right. It is not wise for me to expose the secret on my body. If Muqin Marquis discovers it, I will be in danger if he harbors even the slightest bit of greed. So, Zhuowen, what will your choice be? You should know that my patience is not that good." The ninth commandery princess squinted her beautiful eyes and quietly stared at the young man below the stage. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, everyone's eyes were fixed on Zhuowen. They all knew that the young man's answer would most likely change his life. In this somewhat strange atmosphere, the young man slowly raised his head. There was not the slightest bit of nervousness or any other emotion on his face. Instead, there was a calm and serene expression. The young man's lips moved slightly, and his clear and melodious voice resounded throughout the entire open space. "I refuse." Chapter 178. Zijin Men, he actually rejected it. Is Zhuowen out of his mind? How could he reject such a generous offer? I really don't know what he's thinking. If it were me, I would definitely agree. This is a chance to soar to the sky. After a long period of silence, an uproar broke out in the open space. Everyone's gazes were focused on the youth. Their gazes were filled with confusion, doubt, ridicule and various other emotions. Guyu Tian, who was beside him, was also stunned. He tilted his head slightly and looked at the young man beside him in disbelief. With an excited expression, he said, Zhuowen, this is an opportunity for you and your Zhuo family to soar into the sky. Why are you rejecting it? You can't let your emotions affect your decisions. At this moment, Zhuowen was extremely calm. He calmly gazed at Gu Yutian and said, City Lord, I am very calm right now. I also know what I am doing. However, this is my business. I hope you won't interfere. Furthermore, I naturally have my own considerations for refusing. Gu Yutian was stunned. What Zhuowen said made sense. After all, it was someone else's business. As an outsider, it was inappropriate for him to say anything. Sighing slightly, Gu Yutian said helplessly, now the 9th Commandery Princess is inviting you in front of everyone. Obviously, she has made up her mind to recruit you. But if you refuse now, I'm afraid she won't let it go easily. I will deal with the 9th Commandery Princess. Zhuowen said softly. Since he had already said so much, Gu Yutian naturally had nothing else to say. However, the frown between his brows represented that his heart was not calm at all. On the high platform, no matter if it was the 9th Commandery Princess, Ling Ju, or Su Chang, they were all stunned after receiving Zhuowen's rejection. In their opinion, no fool would reject the 9th Commandery Princess's offer. However, to their disbelief, the young man in front of them actually refused in such a righteous manner. The 9th Commandery Princess squinted her beautiful eyes, and the smile on her face slowly froze. Instead, she became a little gloomy and said coldly, Zhuowen, you are really bold. How dare you refuse me twice? I will give you one last chance. Before the 9th Commandery Princess could finish her words, Zhuowen suddenly stepped forward and looked at the girl on the high platform. He said loudly, say no more. My answer will not change. I will not join the house of Marquis Qin. After being interrupted by Zhuowen's words, the 9th Commandery Princess is mistress of Marquis. How dare you? How dare you disobey the Commandery Princess's order? Lingju saw that the situation was not right. She stood up abruptly and stared at the young man below the platform. At the same time, an aura as vast as the ocean suddenly burst out from her body. As soon as the aura gushed out, it was like a mountain, pressing down on Zhuowen. Bang! The powerful pressure suddenly pressed down on Zhuowen's body as if a mountain had suddenly appeared on his back. Soon after, Zhuowen's entire body sank. Under this pressure, his feet actually created 2 extremely deep depressions in the ground. Zhuowen's whole body was also under the pressure. Slowly, he bent his body, and beads of cold sweat flowed down from his forehead. Lingju was indeed a heavenly king expert. Just the pressure of her aura was enough to make Zhuowen unable to bear it. Kneel down and admit your mistake. Lingju's eyes were wide open in anger. An even stronger aura poured down on the young man in front of him. This time, he had used 70% of his strength. He was confident that even a warrior in the profound human king realm would be forced to kneel down under the pressure of his aura, let alone Zhuowen. However, what shocked him was that the young man in front of him did not kneel down as he wished. Instead, his entire body struggled. His originally stooped back actually slowly straightened as he struggled. Moreover, his face revealed a trace of a stubborn smile. At this moment, Zhuowen's condition was not very good. Under the pressure of Lingju's aura, his internal organs were slightly damaged, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, even though he was seriously injured and spat out blood, the young man in front of him still had a stubborn smile on his face. Everyone fell into a strange silence as they stared at the smile on the young man's face. Everyone's gazes were complicated as they stared at the young man who was struggling bitterly on the empty ground. They were truly unable to imagine how the young man in front of them could still smile at this stage. Gu Yutian's expression changed drastically. He took a step forward and clasped his hands together. 9th Commandery Princess, Zhuowen did not mean to offend you. I hope the Commandery Princess can. However, before Gu Yutian could finish his words, Lingju's right hand gently waved, and a powerful force instantly swept over. Gu Yuetian was caught off guard, and under the effect of this force, he was forced to continuously retreat. He only managed to come to a stop after creating 2 pits that were more than 10 meters long on the ground, and immediately spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. "Lord Gu, you'd better not interfere in this matter. Otherwise, it will not be worth it to lose your life." Lingju glanced at Gu Yutian indifferently and said coldly. With his face slightly red, Gu Yutian spat out another mouthful of blood. However, he fell into a rare silence. The strength of Lingju in front of him was too strong. He had no doubt that with Lingju's strength, she could kill him with just one move. The smile on the 9th Commandery Princess's face was long gone. Instead, it was replaced by deep indifference. She quietly looked at the struggling young man under the stage and said again, "I'm really surprised. There should be no reason for you to reject my offer. However, you rejected it. This is unbelievable." Speaking of this, the 9th Commandery Princess suddenly smiled and said, "I'm curious as to why you rejected my offer. Can you tell me more about it?" At this moment, Zhuowen's origin energy was mobilized. Even the solid armor, which had just been condensed, automatically appeared on the surface of his body due to the great pressure. However, even so, Zhuowen still had a hard time resisting the attack. Now, even if he wanted to raise his head, he had to exert all his strength. Moreover, he was sweating profusely. Slightly raising his head, Zhuowen's eyes were still emotionless and calm. Suddenly, he grinned and said, "Reason? Do I need a reason to reject? Isn't it everyone's right to reject? Or do you want to deprive me of the right to reject as a member of the noble family? Isn't this too overbearing?" The empty ground once again descended into silence after Zhuo Wen's words were spoken. A contemplative expression surfaced in everyone's eyes when they heard Zhuo Wen's words. The 9th Commandery Princess was also stunned. She had thought that the young man in front of her would choose to give in at this moment of life and death. However, what really shocked her was that the young man did not give in. Instead, he gave a righteous answer. Gazing at the stubborn young man under the stage, the 9th Commandery Princess's heart was suddenly touched. It was as if a door in her heart was gradually opening at this moment. As a descendant of the noble family, the 9th Commandery Princess had lived a luxurious life since she was a child. The people around her were all respectful and obedient to her. No one dared to reject any of her requests. Now, the ordinary-looking young man in front of her had rejected her several times. This was the first time she had experienced such a feeling. Although she was a little angry, it was more of a novelty. Zhuowen stared at the 9th Commandery Princess who was on the stage. His feet seemed to be stuck in a swamp. He suddenly took a step forward and his eyes were full of fearlessness. He shouted loudly, "Everyone has their own freedom. Everyone has their own choice. It's my freedom to reject or accept. Why do I have to accept the result that I don't want to accept under your coercion? This is like a bird in a cage. If a bird that can spread its wings and fly high is imprisoned in a cage, it will suffer more than death." Zhuowen stepped forward step by step. His voice was loud and clear, and his expression was stern. An unconcealable qi power was emitted from his body, which slightly offset the pressure exerted by Lingju. In this way, Zhuowen stood proudly in the open space with his back straight. This brat. Lingju also felt that his own pressure was greatly reduced by the aura emitted from Zhuowen's body. This caused his pupils to shrink as he muttered to himself. The 9th Commandery Princess suddenly became silent. After a while, she raised her head and stared at Zhuowen again. She said, "Since you refuse to join the house of Marquis Qin, then I won't force you. However, I want to make a bet with you. If you win, then you can do whatever you want. But if you lose, then you have to join the house of Marquis Qin. This is the last chance I'm giving you." The 9th Commandery Princess did not wait for Zhuowen's response. She waved her hand, and a brilliant purple gold light shot out from her palm. Then, it turned into a huge purple gold gate in the air, which was as big as a mountain. Boom! The huge purple gold door suddenly fell towards the empty ground below. Endless sounds of air exploding also rang out because of this. Finally, it violently smashed onto the ground. Countless wild waves of air violently swept up. Finally, the purple gold door proudly stood in front of everyone amidst the dust that filled the air. An ancient aura that resembled the primordial desolation slowly seeped out from the purple gold door. This is the advanced spiritual treasure, the purple gold door. There are 9 doors inside, which are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, black, and purple gold. Now you enter. If you can break through the 9 doors, then I won't force you. But if you can't, then you have to join the house of Marquis Qin. This is my bottom line. The 9th Commandery Princess looked down at Zhuowen and said indifferently. Chapter 179. Enter the purple gold door that stood proudly was as majestic as a mountain. Compared to it, the countless figures below were as tiny as ants. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the purple golden door. He did not expect that the 9th Commandery Princess could take out such a rare treasure. Furthermore, from the indistinct pressure that was emitted from the purple gold door in front of him, one could tell that this spiritual treasure was not ordinary. Zhuowen. The purple gold gate was filled with spiritual barriers. Some places even had terrifying spiritual storms. Those who entered would die if they were not careful. Moreover, each of the 9 gates was stronger than the last. Even a human king realm warrior would not be able to break through all 9 gates. So it's not too late for you to regret. The 9th Commandery Princess said coldly as she stared at the young man below. Zhuowen raised his head slightly and glanced at the 9th Commandery Princess. He remained calm and said, I choose to go in. Humph. This is your choice. If you die in there, don't blame me. Seeing Zhuowen's fearless attitude, the 9th Commandery Princess's face darkened. She snorted coldly and formed a complicated seal with both of her hands. She gently pushed her jade-like hand and a light seal shot out from her palm. Whoosh! The light seal accurately shot into a groove on the main gate of the purple gold door. Boom! Following the fitting of the groove, the entire purple gold door began to vibrate violently. The purple gold door slowly split open from the middle. Immediately, an extremely powerful mental energy ripple spread out from the purple gold door, shaking some of the nearby practitioners until they were forced to retreat in a miserable manner. What a powerful spiritual pressure! When the mental energy undulations surged out, Zhuowen was also astonished to feel a special pressure spreading from the purple gold door. Under this pressure, his body seemed to have become a little heavier. Fortunately, Zhuowen's mental energy had reached the 2nd level. Hence, he was able to remain calm under this pressure. Zhuowen raised his head and glanced at the 9th Commandery Princess again. Then he stepped into the purple gold door without any hesitation. In the eyes of others, Zhuowen's impatience made it seem as if he was in a hurry to die. This caused many people to look at him strangely. Everyone could feel how terrifying the pressure emitted by the purple gold door was. Moreover, it was already so terrifying just by standing outside the door. If it was inside the door, wouldn't it be even more terrifying? At this moment, Gu Yu and Gu Xian had already arrived beside Gu Yutian. The two of them carefully helped Gu Yutian up. Gu Xian worriedly asked, Father, are you alright? Don't worry. It's just some superficial wounds. It's just that Zhuowen. Gu Yutian shook his head and looked at the purple gold door in front of him with mixed feelings. When the 9th Commandery Princess said that the purple gold door was a high-level spiritual treasure, Gu Yutian knew that it would be extremely difficult to break through the purple gold door. However, Zhuowen insisted on breaking through as if nothing had happened. This made Gu Yutian puzzled. Hearing Gu Yutian's words, Gu Xian and Gu Yu fell silent. Originally, it was a good thing that Zhuowen had helped the governor's mansion to win the quota battle. However, they did not expect things to turn out like this. This guy seems to be impatient to enter the purple gold door. Could it be that I'm imagining things? Looking at Zhuowen, who did not hesitate to enter the purple gold door, the ninth commandery princess's beautiful eyes were full of doubts. Commandery princess. If Zhuowen can't break through the purple gold door, he will be crushed to death by the spiritual barrier inside. I don't think this is what you want. Lingjiu, who was standing beside her, looked at the purple gold door with mixed feelings and whispered to the ninth commandery princess. Don't worry. I won't let this guy die. Third brother gave me the natal light seal of the purple gold door. With this seal, the purple gold door will naturally be under my control. At that time, if he can't break through the purple gold door, I will let him out. At that time, it will not be up to him whether he wants to join the house of Marquis Qin or not. The ninth commandery princess's black eyes were rolling as she said with a smile. You are so wise. After all, the purple gold door is third master's spiritual treasure. Although Zhuowen has many trump cards and has the strength to kill a warrior of the initial human king realm, the purple gold door is not that easy to break through. Even if I go in, I am afraid that I will be in a mess. Lingjiu said respectfully. Lingjiu, you don't have to be modest. With my strength, I am unable to trap you. If it was third brother, with his strength, he would be able to use the violet golden door to trap you. However, if it was me, I would not be able to do it. But to trap Zhuowen, I think I have the strength to do so. The ninth commandery princess said with a smile. Ha! Thank you for your praise, commandery princess. But how long do you think Zhuowen will last in the purple gold door? Lingjiu asked with a hollow laugh. Resting her chin on her hand, the ninth commandery princess played with her hair and said lazily, a warrior of the initial human king realm should be able to reach the sixth door. But if it were that guy, he might be able to break through the seventh door. As for the eighth door, the black door, and the purple gold door, I am afraid that guy will not be able to break through them. Inside the purple gold door, there was a strange space. It was like a starry sky, with countless light spots twinkling constantly. In the dark night sky, there were even streaks of meteors with tails. Under the starry sky, on a dark grassland, a figure stood quietly. It was Zhuowen who had just entered the purple gold door. At this time, Zhuowen was not as calm as before. Instead, he looked flustered and exasperated. He pointed at Xiao He, who was floating in front of him, and shouted angrily, Xiao He. In order to keep your secret, I refused to join the house of Marquis Qin. I even followed your order and entered the purple gold door. Now you are telling me that you have no way to get out. Xiao He laughed dryly. It scratched its head awkwardly with its paws and said, Boy, don't worry. This Lord Dragon can sense that this purple gold door is hiding something that can restore this Lord Dragon's soul origin. As long as you find that thing, this Lord Dragon will be able to recover. At that time, this so-called purple gold door will be broken by this Lord Dragon. Zhuowen was speechless as he looked at the little black dog who was laughing dryly in front of him. He finally realized how unreliable the little black dog in front of him was. In fact, when Zhuowen saw the ninth commandery princess take out the purple gold door, he had already wanted to give up. The purple gold door was an advanced spiritual treasure. Even if he had reached the human king realm, it was unlikely that he could resist an advanced spiritual treasure. Although he had never seen an advanced spiritual treasure, he had seen Zhuo Xiangding use the gravity tower with his own eyes. With the gravity tower, Zhuo Xiangding could even fight against two human king realm warriors, one of whom was at the profound human king realm. This already showed the power of a medium spiritual treasure. If a medium spiritual treasure was so powerful, it was needless to say that an advanced spiritual treasure would be even more powerful. However, when the purple gold door appeared, Xiao He, who had been silent in Zhuowen's body, became excited as if it had taken an aphrodisiac. It even roared in Zhuowen's ear, asking him to enter the purple gold door. According to Blackie, he sensed that there seemed to be something inside the purple gold door that could repair the soul. As for what it was exactly, he kept it a secret. Zhuowen naturally didn't ask too much. Moreover, this fellow had vowed that the purple gold door couldn't stop him at all. As long as he went in, he would be able to come out. Therefore, under Xiao Hei's instigation, Zhuowen acted as if he had boarded a pirate ship and entered the purple gold door stupidly. Moreover, he acted so impatiently as if he was in a hurry to be reincarnated. Zhuowen glared at Xiao Hei fiercely. He sighed and said, "Alas! I really admire you. Can you sense where the thing you are talking about is?" Hee. This dragon lord can feel that the thing is not ordinary, but it is definitely not on this floor. Didn't the little girl just say that there are 9 doors in the purple gold door? Therefore, the thing should be in the other doors. Xiao Hei closed its eyes and tried to sense for a while. Then, it smiled bitterly. It seems that we still have to go in. However, according to the 9th Commandery Princess, the 9 doors in this purple gold door are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, black, and purple gold. Moreover, each door is stronger than the last. I am afraid that these doors will not be easy to break. Zhuowen said after pondering for a while. You are right. Judging from the scene here, this should be the entrance to the purple gold door. The first door should be the red door. We need to find the red door first. Xiao Hei's eyes narrowed as she nodded. Zhuowen nodded and did not dawdle. He brought Xiao Hei with him and turned into a shadow, disappearing from the spot. In this space, apart from the starry sky above, there was only a vast grassland on the ground. It stretched as far as the eye could see. Zhuowen naturally did not want to waste time here. He had to find the red door and break it to enter the next space. Swoosh! Across the grassland, a mountain range appeared in the distance. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen was close to the mountain range. Young man, the red door is behind the cliff on the left. Xiao Hei's soul strength was much stronger than Zhuowen's. In an instant, she found the red door among the numerous mountains. Without hesitation, Zhuowen stepped forward and arrived behind the cliff that Xiao Hei had pointed out. Indeed, there was a red door behind it. The red door was about the height of a person. It was located in a groove on the cliff. If one did not look carefully, it would be difficult to find the red door. Break it. As soon as Xiao Hei finished speaking, Zhuowen released his yuan power and condensed a golden fist. He violently punched the red door. However, what surprised him was that this ordinary punch of his shattered the red door like a hot knife through butter, revealing the red whirlpool behind it. The red door is so fragile. Zhuowen muttered. Hee, the power of this thing increases with each level. I am afraid that it will become very terrifying at the end. You better be careful. Xiao Hei's cold laughter suddenly rang out. Chapter 180. Broken outside the violet gold gate, the 9th Commandery Princess and the others stared at the huge gate in the open space. At this moment, the purple gold door's color had already begun to change. It turned into a blood-red color, appearing rather dazzling in the open space. Did they find the red door so quickly? On the high platform, the 9th Commandery Princess looked at the red door and murmured to herself. The red door is the weakest door. Even a warrior of the Yin Void realm can easily break it. This is nothing. Su Chang, who had been silent all this time, interrupted. The 9th Commandery Princess glanced at Su Chang and ignored him again, which made him feel awkward. The moment he entered the red door, Zhuowen felt the pressure around him become heavier, as if there were a few extra pieces of lead on his body. Is this the world behind the red door? Moreover, the mental pressure has also increased by a lot. Looking at the red scene around him, Zhuowen was somewhat speechless. Other than red, there were no other colors. It was as if he was wearing red glasses in this world. However, under this mental pressure, the mental strength in my Naiwan palace seems to have been tempered a little. Zhuowen smiled faintly. Mental energy poured out from his Naiwan palace and enveloped his body. The mental energy pressure on his body was greatly reduced. This place is indeed a good place to train your mental strength, but you don't have that much time now. Hurry up and find the second door. Xiao He said lazily on his shoulder. Nodding his head, Zhuowen began to seriously search the red space. Very quickly, he found the orange door and successfully entered it. Time passed by gradually. About 30 minutes later, Zhuowen had passed through the first 6 doors. Just as the 9th commandery princess had said, each door was stronger than the last. At the beginning, Zhuowen could easily break the red door with a casual punch. However, when he came to the indigo door of the 6th door, this door was thousands of times stronger than the red door. Even though Zhuowen had used all his strength, he still managed to break it with the power of the holy symbol of ice fire. As soon as Zhuowen stepped through the indigo door, a powerful pressure surged towards him like a tide. Zhuowen couldn't help but bend his knees. After adapting to the pressure for a while, Zhuowen slowly straightened his body. The mental pressure here has reached such a terrifying level. It seems that it is not wise to resist it directly. Muttering to himself, Zhuowen's body abruptly erupted with countless blood veins. Shortly after, these blood veins expanded the muscles all over his body. A vigorous feeling of power continuously surged out from within his body. Second Sky of Rampage. After activating the violent blood beast body, Zhuowen could clearly feel that the mental pressure on his body had dissipated. After moving his arms and legs slightly, Zhuowen tilted his head and said to Xiao He, who was on his shoulder, "Xiao He, is the thing on this floor?" At this moment, Xiao He held its chin with its right hand and pretended to be thinking. Then, it shook its head slightly and said, "It is not here, but it should be here soon. I can feel that it is not far from here." With a wry smile, Zhuowen gazed at the purple door in front of him and said helplessly, "The sturdiness of this purple door should be even more terrifying than the indigo door. It seems that ordinary attacks will not be able to hurt it. I can only use the ice fire." At this point, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed, and a cold expression suddenly burst forth from his eyes. Soon after, the ice and fire symbols on the back of his hands suddenly flickered. Taking out a Yang Yuan stone from his Qiankuan bag, Zhuowen crushed it and refined a fire pillar. Then, he released the 10,000-year mysterious ice-cold qi from the void armor. Next, Zhuowen skillfully mixed the 2 types of ice and fire energy together. Accompanied by a sizzling sound, the ice fire, which had a terrifying aura, lay quietly in Zhuowen's palm. "Kid. With this level of ice fire, I am afraid that one is not enough. You will need at least 2. Xiao He stretched out its paw and reminded him appropriately. "Humph. Of course I know." With a cold snort, Zhuowen did the same as before and mixed another ice fire. Soon after, he let out a soft shout and threw the ice fire in front of him. The 2 ice fire were like meteors, revolving around each other in a spiral, and finally collided with the purple door. Boom! A monstrous loud sound suddenly rose. Immediately, a monstrous wave of air swept out in all directions. With a clear and crisp sound, Zhuowen's face lit up. Soon after, he saw that the huge purple door was collapsing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, and finally, the purple vortex behind the door was revealed. The moment the purple door was blasted open by Zhuowen's brute force, the open space outside started to shake violently. Many warriors could not stand still, and some even fell down awkwardly. In the open space, the originally indigo door had now turned purple. As expected, he has broken through the 7th door. However, this is the end. This guy will never be able to break through the 8th black door. On the high platform, the 9th commandery princess's expression froze, and then she sneered. "I heard that the 3rd master had also broken through the purple gold door. I wonder if he had broken through the 9th door." Su Chang glanced at the strange state of the purple gold door, and then looked at the 9th commandery princess, trying to find a topic to talk about. "Third brother has indeed broken through the purple gold door. With his talent and strength, he should have broken through the ninth door. It was because he had passed the test of the ninth door that Father gave him this extremely powerful spiritual treasure, the purple gold door, the ninth commandery princess replied calmly. I see. No wonder he is the third master. No matter if it is his talent or strength, he is so powerful. Even this purple gold door has been broken through. However, compared to Zhuowen, he pales in comparison. The purple gold door is his limit. Su Chang waved his folding fan and smiled elegantly. The ninth commandery princess glanced at Su Chang with disgust. Although Su Chang was the second son of Marquis Baichuan, he was arrogant and bullied people. He had a bad reputation in the commandery capital, and was a typical foppish playboy. If it were not for Marquis Baichuan's arrangement, the ninth commandery princess would not want to bring such an annoying guy with her. She felt annoyed just by looking at him. Zhuowen is not weak. He is able to break through the purple gold door at such a young age. His talent is extremely strong. Otherwise, why would I invite him to be a seed disciple of the house of Marquis Qin? If you say so, aren't you implying that I have poor taste? The ninth commandery princess said sarcastically. Hearing this, Su Chang's face froze. Then, he smiled embarrassedly and stopped talking. Looking at the silent Su Chang, the ninth commandery princess sneered. Then, she picked up the teacup and took a sip. The purple gold door seems to have turned black. Just when the ninth commandery princess picked up the teacup and took a few sips, a scream came from below the stage. This voice startled her. Her hands trembled slightly, and the teacup fell to the ground. Bang! The clear sound of the teacup breaking was heard. However, the ninth commandery princess did not pay attention to the broken teacup. Instead, she turned her beautiful eyes and looked at the purple gold door on the open ground. She watched as the deep purple color on the purple gold door slowly faded away. Then, a deep black color climbed up the surface of the door. Her pupils suddenly shrank to the size of needles. She was completely dumbfounded. Black. Black door. This guy actually entered the eighth black door. The ninth commandery princess stared and said in a daze. Su Chang, who had been silent, also turned his head to look at the purple gold door. When he saw that the purple gold door had indeed turned black, his face was full of surprise. It seems that Zhuowen is not a simple boy. He was able to pass through the black door of the purple gold door at such a young age. This shows that his talent is not inferior to that of the descendants of nobles. Your Highness, it is not a bad decision to choose him to enter the house of Marquis Qin. Lingju also saw that the door had turned black and said in surprise. It seems that I have underestimated this guy's potential. However, the stronger his talent is, the wiser my decision is. If this guy is cultivated well, I am afraid that in the battle for the Vitality Tower in 2 years, he will be one of the main forces of the house of Marquis Qin. Slightly calming down, the ninth commandery princess smiled and said, moreover, this guy is still so young. It shows how much potential he has. However, this is the end of him. My third brother only passed through the last door of the purple gold door when he was 19 years old. Although this guy's talent is not bad, compared with my third brother, there is still a certain gap. Now, it is time to send him out. That's right. The Marquis will be very happy to find such a genius for the Marquis mansion. After all, the Marquis is thirsty for talents. Lingju echoed with a smile at this time. Both of them had a deep understanding of the purple gold door. The 7 doors of the purple gold door were not very difficult. However, when it came to the black door, the difficulty level was so high that even the combination of the first 7 doors could not be compared to it. The 9th door of the purple gold door was even more terrifying. Even the combination of the first 8 doors could not be compared to the 9th door of the purple gold door. In their opinion, Zhuowen should have been exhausted when she broke through the black door. After all, no matter how heaven-defying Zhuowen was, it was impossible for her to break through the last door. This was because the sturdiness of the purple gold door was something that even a heavenly king stage cultivator would find difficult to break through. As she spoke, the 9th commandery princess made a few seals and condensed a purple gold light seal in her palm. Boom! At this time, a loud sound like countless thunderbolts suddenly came. Immediately, the huge purple gold door standing proudly in the open space shook a few times. Then, in the horrified eyes of the crowd, the towering purple gold door shook a few times and a crack appeared on the surface of the door. Then, inch by inch, the door broke open. Chapter 181. Thousand Transformations. Stone Tablet. Darkness. Endless darkness filled the entire space. It was so dark that one could not even see one's 5 fingers. Under the erosion of the darkness, the entire space appeared to be decayed and barren. This space was the world of the Black Door. Other than darkness, there was nothing else in this world. If one were to talk about the only source of light, it would be the mountain-like purple gold door that lay at the front of the darkness. The purple gold door emitted a glaring purple gold color. This gorgeous color was just like a guiding light in the dark night within the entire dark space. A figure was slowly walking in a certain corner of the darkness. His footsteps were a little messy. His delicate and handsome face had an endless amount of perspiration that continuously flowed down from his forehead. Rough panting sounds also sounded. This figure was Zhuowen. After entering the purple door, he quickly found the black door under the guidance of Xiaohe. The sturdiness of the black door had greatly exceeded Zhuowen's expectations. Even though he used all of his skills, he was unable to shake the black door even a little. Therefore, with no other choice, Zhuowen finally used the Nirvana Demon Flame and the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye to create the Earth-grade Ice Flame. This time around, Zhuowen had created the Earth-grade Ice Flame for the second time after killing Lu Qingshang. Its strength was indeed extremely shocking. However, the price it had to pay was extremely terrible. With Zhuowen's current physical fitness, he naturally suffered a backlash from the Ice Flame Holy Symbol. However, it was fortunate that Zhuowen's current strength was much greater than before. Moreover, he had also grasped some of the tricks of the Ice Flame Holy Symbol. Therefore, he did not collapse to the ground like he did the last time after using the Earth-grade Ice Flame. The black door was naturally blasted open under the bombardment of the Earth-grade Ice Flame. The space within the black door was much smaller than the previous 7 doors. Moreover, other than darkness, there was only the enormous purple gold door at the end of the darkness. However, the mental energy pressure within the door had become extremely frightening. Zhuowen, who was inside the black door, felt like a mountain was crushing his body with every step he took. If he had not used layers of defense, he might have been crushed into meat paste by the spiritual pressure. Xiaohe, is the thing in here? Zhuowen panted heavily. His eyes were red as he looked at Xiaohe on his shoulder. It's not there. It seems that the item should be within the 9th purple gold door. However, it is obvious that items that can restore one's soul are extremely precious. If I were the owner of this purple gold door, I would definitely place it in the innermost door. Xiaohe's eyes turned slightly serious as she said. Hearing this, Zhuowen smiled bitterly. The spiritual pressure within the black door had already suppressed him to the point of suffocation, let alone the even more mysterious purple gold door. Moreover, with his current strength, wanting to break through the violet gold door was undoubtedly a fool's dream. Xiaohe, I'm going to die because of you. Being able to break through the black door and enter the 8th door is already my limit. As for the final purple gold door, even I am powerless to do so. Zhuowen grimaced in pain as he spoke. Hee hee. The 9th door is indeed too much for you, so leave the rest to me. Xiaohe waved her little paw and gently patted Zhuowen's shoulder as she said with a smile. You mean? Zhuowen was stunned when he heard these words and subconsciously asked. You have helped me so much, so I will naturally not be ungrateful. Therefore, I will help you break through the final purple gold door. After Xiao He finished speaking, she leaped and turned into a black fog in mid-air, enveloping Zhuowen's entire body. After the black fog completely enveloped Zhuowen, Zhuowen lost control of his body. His consciousness was like a bystander, silently observing everything around him in his sea of consciousness. The black fog gradually dissipated, revealing a figure. It was still a handsome young man, but at this moment, the corners of the young man's mouth revealed a faintly discernible evil smile, giving one a feeling that it was full of evil. Moreover, the young man's eyes were no longer pitch black. Instead, they were somewhat scarlet, looking rather ferocious and strange. Kid, take a good look at how this dragon lord will break that broken door. The corners of the young man's mouth curled into a smile. Soon after, his legs suddenly shot out, and his entire body was like an arrow that had been released from a bow, flying at a steady speed towards the purple gold door in the depths of the darkness. In his sea of consciousness, a trace of astonishment surfaced on Zhuowen's face as he looked at his own body, which did not stop at all. He did not expect Xiao He's spiritual energy to be completely unaffected by the mental energy pressure within the black door. This was the second time Zhuowen had borrowed Xiao He's strength. However, from Xiao He's words, it seemed that borrowing its spiritual energy would cause quite a bit of damage to its own spiritual origin. Therefore, it would not lend its strength to Zhuowen unless it was in a life and death situation or was driven by a huge benefit. Even the previous time, it was because the ice-fire holy symbol had a certain supporting effect on Xiao He. Therefore, Xiao He made an exception and borrowed Zhuowen's body to unleash a strength that was almost comparable to a four-reverend stage practitioner. Of course, this strength was only temporary. Swoosh! In an instant, Zhuowen had already rapidly approached the purple gold door, and the smile on his face had already reached its peak. Kid, this Dragon Lord will show you the third level of the immemorial Dragon Roar Fist. Watch carefully. Wild and arrogant laughter erupted from Zhuowen's mouth. Soon after, his 5 fingers were tightly clenched into a fist. A powerful aura that was like a monstrous wave suddenly surged out from within his body. In his sea of consciousness, Zhuowen's eyes immediately narrowed when he heard this. He stared closely at Xiao He, who was controlling his body. The immemorial Dragon Roar Fist was a mysterious armor technique that his father, Zhuo Xiaotian, had left behind. It was said that it was an incomplete armor technique, but its power still reached the level of a heaven-rank middle-level armor technique. From this, one could see how extraordinary this armor technique was. Ever since Zhuowen had broken through to the second level of the 10 dragons ascend to the heavens under Xiao He's guidance in the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye, he had not made any progress after that. At this moment, since Xiao He was able to display the third level of the immemorial Dragon Roar Fist, Zhuowen was naturally looking forward to it. After all, being able to personally witness the third level of the immemorial Dragon Roar Fist would be of great help to his comprehension. Immemorial Dragon Roar Fist, 100 dragons battle the heavens. A hoarse roar slowly emerged from Zhuowen's mouth. Zhuowen's right fist fiercely pointed at the empty space. Soon after, heart-wrenching dragon roars burst out, resounding through the clouds, one after another. As the dragon roars whizzed past, countless ear-piercing explosions sounded out the instant Zhuowen's right fist violently smashed into the empty space. Soon after, 100 black giant dragons broke through the space behind him. They opened their mouths and rushed in the direction of his fist. Rumble! 100 giant dragons intertwined with each other, as if they covered the sky and covered the sun. It was as if the entire sky was covered by giant dark clouds. Soon after, the 100 dragons violently smashed into the purple gold door that stood in the empty space. The violent explosion was accompanied by endless air waves that violently swept out in the world of the black door. Invisible ripples were like water waves that spread out in all directions. As the aftershocks continued to spread, the entire black space began to violently shake as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. Under such tremors, the mental energy barrier that covered the black door actually began to collapse. The surrounding dense darkness also began to shatter at this moment. Crack! A clear sound slowly rang out. Soon after, the giant purple gold door that stood in the empty space actually collapsed inch by inch with a cracking sound. Zhuowen also suddenly rushed into the door. Is this the world inside the purple gold door? When Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and looked around, a trace of astonishment appeared in his eyes. What appeared in front of him was a rather large open space. In the middle of the open space, there was actually a stone tablet that was about 10 feet tall that silently stood. The entire open space was empty except for this strange stone tablet. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuowen slowly walked towards the stone tablet. At this moment, Zhuowen's consciousness had already returned to his body. After Xiao He used the immemorial dragon roar fist, he once again transformed into Xiao He the dog and stood on Zhuowen's shoulder with a lazy expression. What made Zhuowen feel strange was that in the world inside the purple gold door, there did not seem to be the slightest bit of mental energy pressure. Even if Zhuowen did not use any defensive measures, he could still walk around with ease. After walking into the stone tablet, Zhuowen could see that the surface of the stone tablet was inscribed with some unknown symbols. He did not recognize these symbols. Myriad stone tablet? I never thought that there would actually be a myriad stone tablet inside the purple gold door. No wonder this dragon lord could feel that special fluctuation from outside. It turns out that it was emitted by the myriad stone tablet. Just when Zhuowen was feeling rather puzzled, Xiao He the dog on his shoulder said in amazement. Myriad stone tablet? What is that? Zhuowen asked with a puzzled gaze. Xiao He the dog extended its little paw and rubbed its chin, replying, the myriad stone tablet is what it was called 10,000 years ago. However, this thing seems to have been lost in the turmoil 10,000 years ago. I'm afraid that there are only a few warriors in this era who can recognize the true identity of this tablet. To put it bluntly, the so-called myriad stone tablet is actually a spatial spiritual treasure. Spatial spiritual treasure? Isn't that similar to a qiankuan bag? Zhuowen asked in astonishment. A qiankuan bag cannot be compared to the myriad transformation steel. The space within the myriad transformation steel is almost limitless, and the number of things it can store is almost innumerable. 10,000 years ago, this kind of large-scale spatial spiritual treasure was the favorite of those sections. After all, those sects with deep foundations had countless treasures, and only a spatial spiritual treasure like the myriad transformation steel could store them all. Chapter 182. Secret psychic techniques. Far to the northeast of Rattan Armor City, there was a huge ship with a dragon's head. It was as big as a mountain. Thousands of miles above the clouds, it was speeding towards Rattan Armor City. If one looked closely, this ship was exactly the same as the dragon that the 9th Commandery Princess had taken last time. A handsome man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes in a purple robe sat cross-legged on the dragon's head. Terrifying energy ripples emanated from the man's body. These ripples were much more terrifying than Guyu Tian's, but they were slightly weaker than Lingju's. Clearly, the purple-robed man's cultivation was at least at the Earth King realm. The purple-robed man was about the same age as Gu Xian, around 20 years old at most. However, he was at least at the Earth King realm at such a young age. Obviously, he was a talented person. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach such a terrifying realm at such a young age. The violet gold door was actually broken. The purple-robed man frowned slightly. His gaze shifted slightly as he looked in the direction of Vine Armor City and muttered to himself. Brother Yuanhua, you are so elegant. You're actually in the mood to sit on the dragon's head and meditate. A rough voice suddenly came from the deck behind the dragon's head. The purple-robed man turned his head and looked behind him. He saw a tall man with bare arms standing on the edge of the deck. He had a resolute expression on his face and a huge long-handled broadsword on his back. He was looking straight at the purple-robed man with an arrogant smile on his face. The aura emanating from this tall man was not any weaker than the purple-robed man. Clearly, he was an expert of the same level as the purple-robed man. These two men were around 20 years old, but their cultivations could not even be compared to some of the older generation warriors. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, their talent could be said to be extremely terrifying. This kind of talent was probably at the top even in the entire Muqin County. Brother Sumu, may I know why you are looking for me? The corners of the purple-robed man's mouth curled up as he asked in a neutral manner. Hee. This time, the matter regarding the ancient cave mansion could be said to have shaken the entire county. It was likely that many of the more troublesome forces would gather in Rattan Armor City. If we want to obtain good things, I'm afraid it's more appropriate for us to work together. The rough man crossed his arms and laughed. Joining forces is naturally a must. This time, Lord Father originally planned to join forces with the three marquises of the county to enter the ancient cave together. As for the forces from the county capital, they are not worth mentioning. This time, we should be facing some traps and mechanisms in the ancient cave. According to the result of Lord Father's deduction, although the ancient cave mansion we are going to is broken, the owner of the cave mansion seems to be a ruthless person, so it should be quite dangerous inside. The purple-robed man's eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke in a rather cautious tone. Oh. Looks like the ancient cave mansion is not simple. However, the more dangerous it is, the more precious the things inside are. I'm afraid this is a good thing for us. The rough man, Sumu, grinned and said. I heard that my younger brother, Su Chang, and the 9th Commandery Princess have already arrived at Tingjia City. I wonder if they have already found the location of the ancient cavern. However, this time, it is a little strange. Why would a small place like Tingjia City appear in an ancient ruin like the ancient cave mansion? I have never heard of such a low-level city. The purple-robed man was the 9th son of Marquis Mu Qin, who was also the 3rd brother of the 9th Commandery Princess, Lu Yuanhua. At the same time, he was also the true controller of the Purple Gold Door. Although Tingjia City is small, I'm afraid it is not that simple. Lu Yuanhua narrowed his eyes and said something that did not make sense. What do you mean? Based on Brother Yuanhua's words, this Tingjia City does not seem to be simple. Su Mu was stunned. He did not expect Lu Yuanhua to reveal a cautious expression. To be honest. Just now, I sensed that the purple gold door was broken by someone. It is hard for me to imagine that such a person exists in this small Tingjia city. Lu Yuanhua's expression was calm as he spoke in a neutral tone. Oh. Your other high-grade spirit treasure. The power of the purple gold door is not weak, is it? Someone actually broke through the purple gold door's confinement. And you are so sure that the person who broke through the purple gold door must be someone from Tingjia City? Su Mu asked, scratching his head. As long as it is someone from the commandery capital, there is no one who does not recognize my purple gold door. I don't think anyone has the guts to risk offending the house of Marquis Qin by breaking through my purple gold door. Therefore, only someone from Tingjia City would dare to do such a thing. Lu Yuanhua snorted coldly and said indifferently. If your guess is correct, I'm afraid that the person who broke through the purple gold door is in for a bad time. Looking at Lu Yuanhua, who had a strange expression, Su Mu laughed gloatingly. Inside the purple gold door, Zhuowen looked at the Millennium Stone stele in front of him. He frowned and said, if what you said is true, and there are many good things stored in this Millennium Stone stele, then the 9th Commandery Princess should have already taken them away. Why would we have a chance? Boy, do you know why the Millennium Stone stele was so favored by the big sects 10,000 years ago? One of the reasons was because I told you before. The space inside was almost infinite and could store a large amount of things. The other reason was to keep it a secret. Do you see the symbols on the surface of the stone stele? These symbols are very particular. They contain the password to open the Millennium Stone stele. If the password is not correct, then the restriction in the stone stele will be triggered and attacked by the restriction. Moreover, These runes were all sealed with the blood essence of the previous sect leaders. The power contained within these seals can be described as earth-shattering. I'm afraid that even an ultimate Emperor realm expert would be blasted to smithereens. Therefore, this stone tablet has never been opened before. Xiao He kicked her legs and lightly jumped from Zhuowen's shoulder to the top of the stone stele. It's so terrifying. Could it be that you can open this kind of seal? Zhuowen looked at Xiao He on the stone stele with some hope and asked. He. This Dragon Lord was in existence at the peak of the ancient era. The Millennium Stone Stele is nothing to this Dragon Lord. Xiao He put her paws on her waist and said pretentiously. Then hurry up and open it. Don't dilly-dally. Zhuowen directly ignored the pretentious Xiao He and impatiently said. Xiao He was quite displeased with Zhuowen's impatience. However, she still obediently prepared to open the Millennium Stone Stele. Xiao He slightly raised her paws and a black light poured out from between her paws and landed on the indescribable symbols on the surface of the stone stele. Sizzle. A faint sound was heard. Soon after, Zhuowen was surprised to see that under the effect of the black light, the symbols on the surface of the stone stele seemed to have come alive. They actually began to wriggle slowly, as if many small tadpoles were twisting and turning. As the symbols wriggled, they actually slowly approached each other under Zhuowen's strange gaze. Finally, they merged together and formed a black hole the size of a human head. Hee. Looks like this Dragon Lord's unlocking skills have not deteriorated. Back then, this Dragon Lord relied on this skill to visit the Millennium Stone Steles of many sects. At this point, Xiao He seemed to realize that she had spilled the beans and hurriedly shut her mouth. However, Zhuowen's head was filled with black lines. From Xiao He's words, Zhuowen could infer that this fellow must have plundered many sects' treasure vaults in the past. Cough cough. Brat, wait outside. This Dragon Lord will go in and take a look to see if there are any good things. Xiao He dryly coughed a few times and said a few words to Zhuowen before hurriedly entering the black hole. Looking at the black hole on the stone stele that was only the size of a human head, Zhuowen looked at his own body and realized that with his current body, he would not be able to squeeze through the hole. Only then did Zhuowen let out a deep sigh and give up on the idea of entering the stone stele. Fortunately, Zhuowen did not have to wait for long before Xiao He walked out cursing. This is outrageous. Which sect does this Millennium Stone Stele belong to? There was actually such a poor sect in the ancient era. This Dragon Lord is really angry. After coming out of the black hole, Xiao He cursed again and quieted down. Looking at Xiao He's expression, Zhuowen also expected that this fellow did not gain much inside. However, he still went over and asked, "What did you find inside?" "It can't be that you gained nothing, right?" "That's not it. It's just that the things inside are really pitifully little." Xiao He cursed again. With a wave of his little paw, some broken things scattered on the ground. Among these broken things, most of them were ink-black crystals. In addition to these crystals, Zhuowen also found a few stalks of elixirs. However, it was a pity that these elixirs did not emit any medicinal power. It was obvious that with the passage of time, the medicinal power of these elixirs had gradually disappeared. In addition to the ink-black crystals and dried-up elixirs, Zhuowen also found a jade slip in the corner of the pile of things. Casually picking it up, Zhuowen used his mental energy to investigate the contents of the jade slip. After a while, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. A dazzling light burst out from his eyes as he muttered to himself, "It's actually a secret spirit skill." Secret spirit skill? It can't be. Kid, your luck is so good. This Dragon Lord casually picked up a secret spirit skill and found it. Xiao He also heard Zhuowen's muttering and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The so-called secret mind technique was actually a technique that transformed formless mind power into a tangible attack. Secret spirit skills were different from mental energy tempering techniques. It could be said that the former was hundreds of times rarer than the latter. In the entire continent, the number of arcanists who possessed secret spirit skills was also extremely rare. Moreover, these arcanists who possessed secret spirit techniques were all passed down in their families and were never allowed to pass them on to outsiders. It was because of this rule that secret spirit techniques were extremely rare on the entire continent. Those who possessed secret spirit techniques were mostly arcanists with powerful backgrounds. Chapter 183. 10,000 Yen Sutra. Kid, what's the name of this secret spirit skill that you've obtained? Xiao He asked while scratching his head as he leaped onto Zhuowen's shoulder. The secret skill is called the 10,000 Yen Sutra. It seems to be a secret skill that can split one's mental energy. It's said that when cultivated to the peak, one can split one's mental energy into tens of thousands of strands. This secret skill that can split one's mental energy doesn't seem to be an offensive technique. As for what it's used for, I'm not too sure. Zhuowen said with some doubt. 10,000 Yen Sutra. No way. Isn't your luck a little too heaven-defying? You actually obtained such a heaven-defying secret spirit skill. Xiao He's pupils shrank as he shrieked. Is this secret skill that heaven-defying? The doubt on Zhuowen's face became even more intense. No matter how he looked at it, this secret skill that could split one's mental energy was somewhat useless. After all, the more condensed one's mental energy was, the more powerful it would be. If the mental energy was split, then wouldn't the power of the mental energy be greatly reduced? It's more than heaven-defying. It can be said that it's simply abnormal. To tell you the truth, the 10,000 Yen Sutra's true use isn't what you think it is, which is to directly use mental energy to attack. Instead, it's to control puppets to attack indirectly. Xiao He let out a light sigh as if he was suppressing the excitement in his heart. Puppets? Is this secret skill necessarily related to puppets? Zhuowen asked with some confusion. Hee. Do you know why the 10,000 Yen Sutra is so different from other secret spirit skills? It doesn't focus on condensing one's mental energy. Instead, it continuously splits one's mental energy. Its main purpose is to use these splits of mental energy to control puppets. When you cultivate it to the peak, you'll be able to split your mental energy into tens of thousands. This means that you'll be able to control tens of thousands of puppets by yourself. You don't need me to tell you how much this army of puppets will help you in battle. Xiao He the puppy rolled its eyes at Zhuowen, as if it was telling him that he shouldn't take advantage of the situation. Zhuowen was startled when he heard this. Soon after, a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on his face. He did not expect that the true use of the 10,000 evolution scripture would lie in this aspect. If it was really as Xiao He had said, and the 10,000 evolution scripture was cultivated to the peak, Zhuowen, who could control the 10,000 evolution scripture, could even threaten a huge faction like the Qing Xian Empire. You finally understand the benefits of the myriad derivation scripture. To tell you the truth, this 10,000 amplification scripture came from the 10,000 amplification sect 10,000 years ago. Possessing such a heaven-defying secret spirit skill, all of the disciples of the 10,000 amplification sect were basically experts who could fight against 10,000 people by themselves. Such a sect was so powerful that it was practically invincible 10,000 years ago. If it was not for a traitor appearing in this sect and stealing the 10,000 yen true scripture, the 10,000 yen sect would naturally have slowly declined after losing the 10,000 yen true scripture. Finally, it disappeared into the dust of history. This Dragon Lord did not expect that I would actually be able to see such a peerless secret skill like the 10,000 yen true scripture 10,000 years later. Xiao He the puppy pretended to shake its head and sigh when it spoke till this point. After Xiao He's extremely enticing explanation, Zhuowen's heart immediately became heated. However, he quickly calmed down and asked, since this secret spirit skill is used to control puppets in battle, the problem is that I don't know how to create puppets. Heh. There should be a method to create puppets in the 10,000 yen true scripture. Take a closer look. After all, this Dragon Lord has only heard of the 10,000 yen true scripture back then. I am not very clear about the specifics. Xiao He scratched its head and laughed embarrassedly. After rolling his eyes at Xiao He, Zhuowen once again extended his mental energy into the jade slip and began to carefully examine the contents of the 10,000 yen true scripture. The 10,000 yen true scripture was divided into 3 major chapters, namely the Dao Yen chapter, the Divine Yen chapter, and the Puppet chapter. Among them, the Dao Yen chapter was the basic cultivation method of the 10,000 yen true scripture. It had a complete explanation on how to cultivate the 10,000 yen true scripture. In fact, it was the method to split mental energy. However, the contents of the Divine Yen chapter caused Zhuowen's eyes to light up. It actually explained how to gather the split mental energy in the Dao Yen chapter back into the Sea of Consciousness to strengthen the mental energy in Zhuowen's Sea of Consciousness. After all, if too much mental energy was split out, the burden on the caster's Naiwen Palace would be extremely severe. The Divine Yen chapter was used to reduce this burden. On the other hand, the Puppet chapter described how to create puppets. After reading the Puppet chapter, Zhuowen knew that his worries were unnecessary. There is indeed a puppet chapter in the 10,000 yen true scripture, and it describes the method to create puppets. Zhuowen sighed softly, and his expression relaxed. Hee hee. Sure enough, you brat shouldn't be happy too early. Although this 10,000 evolution scripture is very powerful, it is very difficult and painful to practice. After all, practicing this secret skill requires you to continuously divide your mental strength. That kind of pain is as if your soul is being torn in half. You must be prepared. Xiao He said in a cautious tone. If you want to obtain great power, you naturally have to pay a corresponding price. I am aware of this. Zhuowen put away the jade slip and said with a faint smile. Speaking of this, Zhuowen turned to look at Xiao He and asked, but did you find something to repair the soul in the 10,000 stone steel? After all, I entered the purple gold door because of your instigation. Hee hee. Of course I found it. Although I felt an extremely powerful soul aura when I was outside, when this Dragon Lord entered the 10,000 transformation steel and found this thing, I was greatly surprised. As Blackie spoke, it took out a flower that looked like a withered bone as if it was performing a magic trick. This flower had 4 petals, and each petal was as white as snow like a human finger bone. It looked rather strange and peculiar. Moreover, Zhuowen felt that the closer he got to the flower, the more agitated the mental energy in his Naiwen Palace became. It was as if the mental energy could not wait to devour this flower. Hee hee, boy, you have never seen this before, right? This flower is called the Spiritual Bone Restoration Flower, and it is the best spiritual medicine to repair the soul. This medicinal ingredient was extremely rare in the ancient times. This Dragon Lord did not expect to find one in a broken 10,000 transformation steel. Xiao He narrowed its eyes, and its face was filled with a proud smile. Looking at the strangely shaped flower in Xiao He's claws, Zhuowen asked curiously, after consuming this flower, will your soul be completely restored? How can it be so easy? This flower can only restore a layer of this Dragon Lord's soul strength. If you want to completely restore this Dragon Lord, you need to gather at least 4 holy symbols. Only the power of the holy symbols can restore this Dragon Lord's soul. Xiao He rolled its eyes and snorted. All right then. Now that we have obtained what we want, we should leave this place. Zhuowen packed up the things under his feet and asked Xiao He. Yes. We have indeed stayed here long enough. This time, we have obtained quite a bountiful harvest. Not only did we obtain the Spiritual Bone Restoration Flower, but you also obtained the 10,000 transformation scripture. This is a great opportunity. Xiao He nodded in agreement. As they spoke, the two of them took a step forward and walked into the endless darkness. They knew that the exit of the purple gold door was right in front of them. At this moment, the entire area was silent. Whether it was the 9th Commandery Princess and the others on the high platform, Guyu Tian and the others on the open ground, or the other forces who were watching from below the platform. Everyone stared blankly at the center of the open ground. At the center of the open ground, the purple gold door, which was as tall as a mountain, had become abnormally dim. What was even more surprising was that the dazzling purple gold door had collapsed, revealing a black vortex behind the door. Dang dang dang. Suddenly, the crisp sound of footsteps rang out slowly in the silent open ground. Soon after, a figure vaguely appeared in everyone's line of sight from the black vortex. Bang! When the figure stepped out of the vortex, everyone's attention was focused on him. When they saw the figure's face clearly, they could not help but gasp. This was because the figure was Zhuowen, who had rushed into the purple gold door without hesitation. This guy actually broke through the 9 doors of the purple gold door. How is this possible? On the high platform, the 9th Commandery Princess finally recovered from her daze. However, her eyes were filled with astonishment and disbelief. As a high-level spiritual treasure, the purple gold door was naturally hard. Although the 9th Commandery Princess's strength was quite weak, she could not exert the full power of the purple gold door. However, even if it was only a part of its power, the purple gold door could not be broken through by ordinary warriors. However, this young man in front of her had broken through the purple gold door and appeared in front of everyone unscathed. Even Lingjiu and Su Chang opened their mouths slightly, as if they had seen a ghost. They stared at the young man in front of them. On the empty ground, Zhuowen also noticed the many gazes gathered on the empty ground. He frowned slightly and threw his gaze towards a slim and elegant young lady on the tall platform. An arc surfaced from the corners of his mouth as his clear voice sounded. 9th Commandery Princess, I have broken through the purple gold door. Now it's time for you to fulfill your promise. Looking at the smiling young man, the 9th Commandery Princess bit her red lips and her body trembled slightly. Finally, she curled her lips and announced unwillingly, Zhuowen, you have won the bet this time. Therefore, I will not force you to join the house of Marquis Qin. However, don't regret your choice when the time comes. After saying this, the 9th Commandery Princess stomped her foot and left the high platform with Lingjiu and Su Chang. Obviously, the 9th Commandery Princess was quite upset that she had lost the bet. Naturally, she could not stay here any longer. Wow! When the 9th Commandery Princess finally announced the result, everyone on and off the platform cheered excitedly. Everyone looked at the young man standing quietly in the middle of the open ground with fanaticism. It was undeniable that the young man in front of them had created so many surprises in this competition. At the same time, Zhuowen's performance had finally won over everyone's hearts. After this competition, I'm afraid that this young man will become famous in the entire Rattan Armor City. In the corner of the open ground, looking at the figure on the open ground and hearing the mixed cheers, a gratified smile appeared on his face. Gu Xian, who was standing beside him, looked quite gloomy. However, the gloominess was quickly replaced by determination. She said softly, Father, I will go into closed-door training. I will not come out until I break through to the human king realm. Chapter 184. Strange black crystals. Following the conclusion of the competition for the quota, Zhuowen's reputation spread at an extremely fast speed. Because of this, many warriors with decent strength came to join the Zhuo family. It was precisely because of Zhuowen's great prestige that even some powerful forces had joined the Zhuo family out of admiration. In this way, Zhuowen's power had once again increased explosively. The Zhuo family's power and resources could faintly compare to the Castellan's palace. Now, they were publicly recognized as the second most powerful force in Rattan Armor City. Seeing the Zhuo family develop like a raging fire, Elder Zhuo Xiangding couldn't stop smiling all day. He knew that all of this was because of his grandson, Zhuowen. Therefore, he was proud to have a grandson like Zhuowen. Occasionally, when he talked about Zhuowen, his face was full of pride. Zhuowen's deeds were widely spread among the younger generation of the family. Many of the younger generation revealed expressions of worship and reverence when they mentioned the name of Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen was only a few years older than them, Zhuowen's strength was already something that they could only look up to. As for Zhuowen, who was the main character this time, he went into seclusion once again after the fight for the quota. Since Zhuowen had helped the city lord's mansion to turn the tide, Guyu Tian was naturally overjoyed. He specially rewarded Zhuowen with many spiritual medicines and armor skills. Guyu Tian even generously gave Zhuowen a low-grade spiritual treasure. As the castellan of Rattan Armor City, Guyu Tian knew how to conduct himself. He also knew that Zhuowen's dragon vein saber was damaged in the battle with Wang Yuanxing, so he gave him a low-grade spiritual treasure. It had to be said that Guyu Tian was extremely benevolent. In a spacious training room, a young man with a delicate face was sitting upright on the ground with his back straight. His nose was puffing up and down as waves of surging yuan power continuously surged within his body. When the yuan power reached its peak, the young man's body suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light. Then, a muffled thunder-like sound was emitted from his body. Following that, a wave of air immediately surged around the young man's body. The surrounding tables and chairs were instantly sent flying in all directions under the influence of this wave of air. At this moment, the young man's eyes slightly opened. A dazzling golden light suddenly erupted from his pitch-black pupils. After the many battles in the competition for the spots, my comprehension has deepened by quite a bit. In addition to the supply of medicinal pills these few days, my cultivation has finally improved by another step. Zhuowen stood up slightly. His lips moved slightly as he muttered to himself. A Xiaohei dog slowly floated in the air and glanced at Zhuowen. You've advanced to the 7th stage of corporeal yang. Zhuowen faintly nodded his head. With a slightly hesitant expression, he said, the competition for the slots has already ended. This also means that in 2 years' time, I will have to participate in the cruel elemental pagoda battle. In order to be able to enter the Divine Academy, I must win the elemental pagoda battle. So you feel that your current strength is still too weak? Xiaohei crossed its paws and examined the young man below. Yes. Therefore, I have decided to enter the ancient cave mansion. Perhaps I will be able to obtain a great opportunity inside. Right now, I need to constantly strengthen myself. Only then will I be able to stand out in the Yuan Qi Tower battle where geniuses will gather in 2 years. The current me is still not enough. Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen suddenly raised his voice and said. Xiaohei was slightly taken aback. Soon after, it chuckled and said, Kid, you're quite bold. Even this dragon lord did not sense the ancient cave that exists in the heaven fiend's eye. Clearly, this cave itself is not simple. There must be many good things inside. Of course, this also means that it is even more dangerous inside. With your current strength, it will be a bit difficult for you to enter the cave. I know, but I still have to give it a try. Moreover, according to the rumors outside, there is still a month's time to open the ancient cave. At that time, the cave's restriction will be at its weakest and the experts sent by the 3 marquises will join forces to break the restriction of the cave. Therefore, I still have a month's time. Zhuowen was not dejected by Xiaohei's sarcastic words. Instead, he spoke in a firm tone. A month's time is too short. Even if you cultivate day and night, you won't be able to improve much. Or rather, you plan to start cultivating the myriad evolution scripture. Xiaohei rubbed its chin and said with a glare. Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, At present, I can only rely on the myriad evolution scripture. In this month's time, I should be able to use the myriad evolution scripture to divide my mental energy into 2. Also, I can rely on the puppet chapter to create a powerful puppet. At this point, Zhuowen suddenly patted his Qianquan bag and took out a pile of ink-black crystals. He stared at Xiaohei and said, Previously, you found the myriad evolution scripture, spiritual bone restoration flower, and this strange ink-black crystal in the myriad stone steel. The first 2 are treasures, but what is this black crystal? Xiaohei was slightly embarrassed and said, This dragon lord does not recognize this crystal, but I can feel that this black crystal is unusual. This is also the reason why I brought it out of the myriad stone steel. Unusual? Zhuowen asked doubtfully. This kind of crystal is able to emit a kind of strange mental energy fluctuation. This fluctuation is very similar to that of a living creature. However, if one were to carefully sense it, there is a certain difference between it and a living creature. It is this strange fluctuation that this dragon lord brought it out. Perhaps, this thing could be a treasure. Xiao He scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. Zhuowen was speechless as he looked at the flickering eyes of the little black dog in front of him. After interacting with it for such a long time, Zhuowen was naturally aware of Little Black's character. This fellow did not look like a dragon at all. Moreover, it loved to act pretentiously and would often drop the ball at critical moments. It was likely that this black crystal was taken away by Xiao He when he saw that there was too little profit in the myriad stone steel. In any case, it was just for show. Although he had malicious thoughts about Xiao He in his heart, Zhuowen still seriously observed the black crystal beside his feet. Every piece of the black crystal was the size of a palm, and there were dozens of them. They were piled up like a small mountain beside his feet. Moreover, there were no strange fluctuations on the surface of the crystal. They looked very ordinary. If one did not pay attention, it was very likely that they would be treated as ordinary stones by others. Although the black crystal looked very ordinary, Zhuowen had an intuition that this black crystal was not simple. If I inject my mental energy, I wonder if there will be any changes. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuowen suddenly mobilized the mental energy in his Naiwen palace and rushed toward the black crystal below. Soon after, the latter was completely wrapped in it. Brat! Do you really think that this black crystal is a treasure? This dragon lord was just scaring you. I have already checked it. No matter how you look at it, this crystal is no different from an ordinary stone. Moreover, Xiao He sneered. Looking at Zhuowen's serious expression, its face was filled with a gloating smile. However, its smile did not last for long as it froze. Then, its eyes widened as it stared straight at the black crystal below. After Zhuowen used his mental energy to completely wrap the black crystal below his feet, the crystal did not have any reaction at first. Naturally, Zhuowen's face revealed an expression of, as expected. Just as Zhuowen was about to give up, the black crystal beside his feet suddenly began to tremble under the effect of his mental energy. It was as if there was a strange magnetic field around the crystal that was constantly exerting a magnetic force. There's movement. The black crystal seems to be absorbing my mental energy. Zhuowen's eyes flashed as he cried out in surprise. There's really a reaction. Did this dragon lord see wrongly? Could this unassuming black crystal really be a treasure? Xiao He also saw the strange state of the black crystal and its expression changed slightly as it asked. Swoosh! At this moment, the small mountain of black crystals on the ground began to tremble violently. Then, under Zhuowen's astonished gaze, they actually began to float. This is... As he stared at the black crystal suspended in midair, Zhuowen was stunned for a while before he spat out this word. However, he quickly realized that as the black crystal suspended in midair, an extremely strong suction force was immediately emitted from the crystal. Soon after, the mental energy in his Naiwen palace was continuously being absorbed by the black crystal at a terrifying speed. What's going on? The black crystal is actually still absorbing my mental energy. As he felt his Naiwen palace continuously losing mental energy, Zhuowen began to panic. The rate at which the black crystal was absorbing mental energy had reached an astonishing level. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's mental energy in his Naiwen palace had been depleted by 1/10. At this rate, in less than 15 minutes, Zhuowen's mental energy would be completely sucked dry. Then, his Naiwen palace would be crippled and his mental energy would cease to exist. If it really reached that stage, the grade 2 mental energy that Zhuowen had painstakingly cultivated would be wasted. In fact, it would even affect his spiritual energy. Xiao He, what's going on? If I allow it to continue absorbing my mental energy, I will be crippled. Zhuowen's face was filled with fear as he stared at the black crystals suspended in front of him. In just an instant, more than half of the mental energy in his Naiwen palace had been sucked away. Now, there was less than half left. At this moment, Xiao Hei's expression was extremely grim. This was the first time it had encountered such a situation. Even though it wanted to stop it, it was completely unable to do so. This process of forcefully absorbing mental energy was extremely dangerous. If it interfered and interrupted it, Zhuowen's sea of consciousness would very likely be devoured by the absorption force, which would then cause damage to his spiritual energy. As he watched the mental energy in his Naiwen palace depleting bit by bit, a trace of despair surfaced in Zhuowen's eyes. He knew that once the mental energy in his Naiwen palace was completely absorbed, the damage to his spiritual energy would be extremely great. Even his current martial Wei level might drop. Chapter 185. Reverse Spirit Puppet Whoosh. The subtle sound seemed to be quite loud in the empty room. The black crystals that were gathered together in mid-air were like melting ice at this moment, and began to become sticky, turning into a ball of unknown sticky substance. Plop! A heartbeat-like sound slowly rang out. Then, the black viscous substance in the air started to fluctuate, as if there was a living thing trapped within it that was constantly struggling. As it continued to struggle, the sticky substance in the air began to change and gradually took on a human form. An ink-black light burst out from the viscous object. Finally, the viscous object's transformation finally stabilized. Following which, a human figure was completely revealed in front of Zhuowen. This is a puppet. Looking at the figure that finally appeared in front of him, Zhuowen could not help but be stunned. Then, he could not help but ask. What appeared in front of Zhuowen was indeed a human figure. Moreover, this human figure had regular facial features and a tall figure. It was covered in thick, ink-black armor and held 2 square hammers in its hands. Just by standing there, it was already taller than Zhuowen by a head. Moreover, Zhuowen could sense an extremely dangerous aura emanating from the human figure in front of him. However, the burly man's face was stiff and his eyes were dull. It was as if he was just a shell without a soul. At this time, Xiao Hei leaped onto Zhuowen's shoulder. Her small black eyes contained a trace of surprise. After pondering for a while, she exclaimed, "The black crystal can actually turn into a puppet. Could it be a reverse spirit puppet? And those black crystals are the legendary reverse spirit crystals. Reverse spirit puppet, reverse spirit crystal. What are these two things?" Zhuowen tilted his head and asked doubtfully. Looks like the 10,000 stone steel inside the purple gold gate is not simple. Not only did it contain the myriad expansion scripture and the spirit resurrection bone flower, but it also contained the even rarer reverse spirit crystal. It seems that the owner of the myriad transformation steel is quite extraordinary. Xiao Hei's face was filled with caution. It was obvious that this so-called reverse spirit puppet had a great origin. Brat! You should have studied the myriad evolution scripture, so you should have some understanding of puppets. Naturally, materials are needed to make puppets, but the materials for making puppets are quite rare. The reverse spirit crystal is one of the materials for making puppets, and it's a top-grade material. It is said that puppets made with reverse spirit crystals not only have extremely powerful combat power, but also have a special characteristic, which is immortality. In other words, even if this kind of puppet is blown to pieces by a powerful attack, as long as a certain amount of mental strength is supplied, then it will reassemble and be as good as new. Its immortality characteristic can be said to be the best material to make puppets. It's no wonder that the reverse spirit crystal absorbed your spiritual power and turned into a complete puppet. As Xiao Hei spoke up to this point, he glanced once again at the dumbfounded puppet not too far away. His eyes burned with passion as he continued, "Kid. Even this dragon lord is rather envious of your fortuitous encounter. Not only did you obtain the myriad evolution scripture, which was extremely powerful even in ancient times, but now you've also obtained a powerful reverse spirit puppet. After listening to Xiao Hei's description, Zhuowen also knew that the so-called reverse spirit puppet in front of him seemed to be very powerful. He couldn't help but feel excited. He smacked his lips and asked, "Then what kind of strength does this reverse spirit puppet have?" Hee. To tell you the truth, the strength of each reverse spirit puppet is basically around the ultimate emperor realm. However, due to the immortality characteristic of this thing, if you have 10 reverse spirit puppets, even 4 supremacy realm experts may not be able to do anything to the puppet controller. Xiao Hei chuckled and glanced at Zhuowen, who was in shock, and gave the latter a look that said, "Kid, you're taking advantage of me. Ultimate Emperor Realm? It's actually so powerful." When Zhuowen heard Xiao Hei's words, he was truly shocked. He didn't expect that this seemingly ordinary puppet in front of him would actually be so powerful. Now that he had this puppet, didn't that mean that he was practically invincible in Rattan Armor City? Even in the entire Muqin County, with an Ultimate Emperor Realm puppet, he could already enter the ranks of the top experts. When Xiao Hei saw the increasingly excited expression on Zhuowen's face, the corners of his mouth suddenly curled into a sly smile. "Kid, you've got a pretty good plan, haven't you? However, this Dragon Lord can regretfully tell you that this reverse spirit puppet is a defective product. Its strength is much weaker than a complete reverse spirit puppet." When Zhuowen heard this, he angrily glared at Xiao Hei, who was gloating over his misfortune, and gnashed his teeth. This guy was definitely doing this on purpose. At the beginning, he had said that the reverse spirit puppet was so powerful, but now he was saying that this puppet was a defective product. He was obviously toying with him. Since it's a defective product, doesn't that mean that it doesn't have any power? Since he heard that this puppet was a defective product, Zhuowen immediately lost interest. Hee. Even if it's a defective product, this Dragon Lord estimates that this puppet has the strength of an Earth King stage practitioner. After all, the body of a reverse spirit puppet is indestructible. Just by relying on the quality of its body, it can forcefully resist an Earth King stage practitioner. It can even put up a fight against a Heavenly King stage practitioner. Xiao Hei stopped joking and said rather seriously, "Oh. A defective product has the strength of an Earth King stage practitioner. It seems that this puppet is indeed not simple. Although it did not reach my expectations, with this puppet, I have more confidence in entering the Ancient Era's cave." Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly, and a trace of confidence flashed across his brows. If it was said that he did not have the slightest confidence in entering the Ancient Era's cave at the beginning, now that he had obtained this reverse spirit puppet, it could be said that he had a certain degree of confidence. And most importantly, this reverse spirit puppet still has room for improvement. "Kid, the reason why this reverse spirit puppet is a defective product is because there are a few missing materials in the puppet's manufacturing process, resulting in a decrease in its power. If you have the chance in the future, look for some materials to increase the power of this puppet," Xiao Hei said as his eyes turned. Slightly nodding his head, Zhuowen also understood what Xiao Hei said. Moreover, in the puppet chapter of the Myriad Yen scripture, there was an introduction to the manufacturing method of a reverse spirit puppet. However, the materials mentioned in the Myriad Yen scripture were either too precious, or Zhuowen had never heard of them. Therefore, even if Zhuowen wanted to increase the power of the puppet now, there was no way for him to do so. Zhuowen knew that there was still a long way to go to perfect the reverse spirit puppet. Let's not think about this for now. Let's study the Myriad Yen scripture first. This kind of secret spirit skill is not easy to cultivate. Slightly shaking his head, Zhuowen kept the reverse spirit puppet in front of him into his qiankuan bag. Immediately after, he took out the jade strip and began to silently study the mystery of the Myriad Yen scripture. Seeing that Zhuowen had begun to cultivate, Xiao Hei naturally did not want to disturb him. Hence, he turned into a black light and disappeared between Zhuowen's eyebrows. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, Zhuowen basically stayed in his room to study the Myriad Yen scripture. It had to be said that the myriad yen scripture was indeed very mysterious. Even if Zhuowen used all of his skills, he still had some understanding of it. In fact, the secret of the myriad yen scripture was to continuously divide. The first step was to divide the mental energy in the Naiwan Palace into two. As the saying goes, 1 gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 4, 4 gives birth to 8, and so on until there were thousands of divisions. It could be said that there was basically no shortcut to cultivating this kind of secret spirit skill. One could only cultivate step by step and accumulate over an endless amount of time. Sunlight passed through the gaps in the window and finally landed on the body of a young man. At this moment, the young man's breathing was quite rapid. Moreover, his eyes were tightly shut, and beads of sweat were falling down his cheeks. It was as if raindrops were hitting the ground, emitting a clear sound. This kid, he's planning to divide the mental energy in the Naiwan Palace into two again. In these 3 days, how many times has it been? Even I can't keep count anymore. Xiao He muttered to himself with a sigh as he floated in mid-air and silently looked down at the young man whose face was filled with pain. During these 3 days, the young man had continuously tried to divide the mental energy in the Naiwan Palace into two. He would try again after he failed, and he would try again after he failed again. This repeated over and over again. In these 3 days, this kind of attempt was not uncommon. In Xiao He's impression, Zhuowen had at least experienced this kind of attempt thousands of times. It should be known that the pain of dividing one's mental energy was akin to tearing one's nerves. That kind of pain was akin to being in hell. If an ordinary person tried it once, they would probably collapse. However, the young man in front of him had experienced this level of pain at least thousands of times. Even so, the young man did not give up and continued to try and endure the pain. Even the experienced Xiao He could not help but admire his tenacious willpower and terrifying endurance. Creak. A soft sound suddenly rang out. Xiao He looked over and discovered that the corner of the young man's mouth was actually dripping with cherry-red blood. Furthermore, there was a hideous wound on the corner of his lips. It was caused by biting his lips too hard due to the extreme pain. This kid is too hard-working. Looking at the young man who had bitten his lips, Xiao He could not help but shake his head and sigh. However, his eyes were filled with a complicated expression. At this moment, a golden light suddenly flashed between the young man's brows. Soon after, this golden light fiercely shot out from between his brows and finally stopped 2 inches away from the young man as it quietly floated in midair. Chi-chi. An indescribable sound rang out. The young man, whose eyes were tightly shut, suddenly used his right hand as a sword and gently drew a line at the golden light in front of him. Following which, Xiao He was shocked to discover that the thumb-sized golden light had actually split into two. The instant the golden light split into two, the young man in front of him suddenly groaned and spat out a large mouthful of blood. His delicate and pretty face instantly became extremely pale. After spitting out the blood, the young man's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. He stared at the golden light that had split into two not far away. A satisfied smile appeared on the young man's pale face as he muttered to himself, "I've finally succeeded. Now that my mental energy has split into two, my 10,000 expansion scripture can be considered to have truly entered the door." Chapter 186. 3 Marquises of Jundadong. A soft knocking sound slowly sounded. Zhuowen, who was in the room, frowned slightly. With a thought, the 2 golden lights floating in front of him entered between his eyebrows with a swoosh sound. Xiao He pursed her lips and followed the golden light into Zhuowen's glabella. "Who is it?" Zhuowen replied indifferently. "I am Lu Tao. I am here to inform young master that Master Kuraki has invited you to the trading club. I heard that he has something important to discuss with you." A respectful voice slowly came from outside the door. Zhuowen was startled. He did not expect Grandmaster Kuraki to invite him. Perhaps the matter was quite important. I got it. Come in first. I still have some things to ask you. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen said calmly. Yes. The person outside the door responded softly. Then, he quietly entered the training room. Lu Tao. His appearance was rather rough, and he had a tall figure. Both of his temples were slightly white. Zhuowen still remembered that this middle-aged man in front of him used to be an insignificant general manager of the Outer Academy. However, his ability to judge people was top-notch, and he had long since sought refuge with Zhuowen. As Zhuowen's position became higher and higher, the Hidden Dragon Pavilion had become a sacred place in the Zhuo family. Many people's faces were filled with reverence when they mentioned the pavilion master of the Hidden Dragon Pavilion. It was because of this prestige that Zhuowen's position as the general manager of the Hidden Dragon Pavilion was much higher than before. Now, many people in the inner court had to give him face. Lu Tao naturally knew that his current position was given to him by this young man in front of him. Therefore, in the past few years as the general manager of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, he had done his best. A lot of the information in Zhuowen's hands was collected by Lu Tao. You should have completed the task I gave you, right? Zhuowen glanced at Lu Tao and said calmly. It's all done. All the information I've gathered is here. Lu Tao bowed and nodded, then carefully took out a large stack of paper from the Qiankuan bag tied around his waist. The paper was filled with dense black characters. Zhuowen glanced at the universe bag on Lu Tao's waist with some astonishment. It seemed that Lu Tao's days were really quite good. He was only the steward of the pavilion, but he actually had a universe bag that even core disciples might not have. Lu Tao also noticed Zhuowen's gaze. His hands suddenly stiffened, and a trace of cold sweat suddenly flowed down from his forehead. He somewhat incoherently explained, Young master, this Qiankuan bag was bought by this lowly one with the money I saved up recently. Don't worry. I won't meddle in your affairs, as long as you can do what I have arranged for you. Zhuowen waved his hands slightly and said without minding. Even if Lu Tao did not need to explain, Zhuowen knew that the former's Qiankuan pouch was obtained through bribery. However, Zhuowen did not reject this kind of thing. After all, once a person's status reached a certain height, such a situation would inevitably occur. Many thanks, young master. Lu Tao gently wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said with a sigh of relief. He did not know why, but every time he faced the young man in front of him, he always felt a pressure that made it difficult for him to breathe. He knew that this was because the young man in front of him was too strong. After receiving the paper, Zhuowen began to read it seriously. The content written on the paper was basically information about the factions that came from the county capital to Vine Armor City. This time, since Zhuowen was determined to go to the ancient cave, he naturally had to understand the details of these factions. Otherwise, if there was a conflict when the time came, he would be in the dark. The content written on the paper was very detailed. The information about the factions in the county capital was very detailed. There was even information about the strength of the cultivators sent by the factions and some things to take note of. Zhuowen read it very carefully, as if he was weighing every word as he read. Lu Tao, on the other hand, stood at the side respectfully. There was not the slightest trace of impatience on his face. An hour later, Zhuowen quickly finished reading the content on the paper. Due to the news of the ancient cave mansion being spread, almost half of the factions in the province had sent out experts to probe. These factions were led by the three super factions of the province, the three marquises. The three marquises of the county capital were Muqin Marquis, Baichuan Marquis, and Yongxing Marquis. The three marquises were the strongest factions in the entire Muqin county. Naturally, the three marquises were also the strongest people in Muqin county. In addition to the three marquises of the county capital, Zhuowen also noticed two other factions. They were the Imperial Sword Sect and the Jade Lady Star Court. These two factions were the strongest factions in the county capital other than the three marquises. The cultivators sent by these two factions were also quite difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the experts sent by the factions in the province this time were basically the younger generation. After Mu Qin Marquis used the Limitless World's secret technique to detect the location of the ancient cave dwelling, he also discovered that the ancient cave dwelling was an abandoned cave dwelling. Therefore, he had already forbidden the older generation experts from the factions in the province from joining the cave dwelling this time. This was Zhuo Wen's opportunity. If the ancient martial art practitioners sent by the prefecture were those old monsters, then Zhuo Wen would at most be a bystander in the ancient cave mansion. It was basically impossible for him to obtain any benefits. However, if they were merely young martial art practitioners, Zhuo Wen would not be so fearful. After reading the introduction on the paper, Zhuo Wen fell into deep thought. It seemed that if he wanted to reap enough benefits in the ancient cave, he had to plan well. Let's put this matter aside for a while. Let's go to the trade fair first. I don't know why Master Tsang Mu is looking for me. Gently putting the paper into his Qiankuan bag, Zhuo Wen thought to himself. Lu Tao, I am very satisfied with the information you have collected this time. As a reward, you can take these 2 void pills. Seeing that you have reached the peak of the Nirvana realm, these pills can greatly increase your chances of entering the Yin Void realm. Glancing at the respectful Lu Tao in front of him, Zhuo Wen took out 2 powerful pills from his Qiankuan bag and handed them to the stunned Lu Tao. Then, he stepped out of the practice room. Lu Tao stared blankly at the gradually disappearing figure. His right hand trembled as he held the 2 pills in his palm. Finally, he knelt on the ground and deeply bowed to Zhuo Wen's back. Then, he said excitedly, "Thank you, young master, for your reward." In fact, he had been stuck in the Nirvana realm for a long time. No matter what method he used, he could not break through to the Yin Void realm. Moreover, he was already old. He knew that with his aging body, it was impossible for him to rely on himself to break through to the Yin Void realm. Therefore, he had long since given up on this idea. However, he did not expect that Zhuo Wen would be so generous as to reward him with the precious void pill. This kind of pill was well known in the Zhuo family. Since Zhuo Wen was able to refine this kind of pill, he had refined a large number of void pills and handed them to Zhuo Xiangding. As the family head, Zhuo Xiangding was responsible for distributing the pills. Because of the existence of the void pill, many core disciples in the family had successfully broken through to the Yin Void realm. Even some outer disciples had obtained the void pill through hard work. Thus, they had soared to the Yin Void realm. Therefore, the recent development of the Zhuo family was in full swing not only because of Zhuo Wen's great reputation, but also because of this extremely precious pill. Normally, even if Lu Tao's status was amazing, it would still be difficult for him to obtain a void pill. However, Zhuo Wen had rewarded him with 2 pills at once. For Lu Tao, this was undoubtedly great news. Walking out of the hidden dragon pavilion, Zhuo Wen headed straight for the trade fair in Tingjia City. However, what made him speechless was that on the way out of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Wen could often feel many burning gazes converging on him. Whether it was the family's servants, guards, or the younger generation of the family disciples, they all stared at Zhuo Wen with feverish eyes. Their burning gazes seemed to want to melt Zhuo Wen. There were even some young girls who kept casting flirtatious glances at him with their watery eyes. Their intentions were very obvious. Facing these gazes, even if Zhuo Wen was quite thick-skinned, he still couldn't bear it. He unconsciously quickened his pace. Under the fervent gazes of the crowd, Zhuo Wen walked out of the Zhuo residence in a rather embarrassing manner. Under the respectful gazes of the 2 guards at the entrance, he directly rushed towards the location of the trade fair. However, when he passed by the God Stone Square, an uproar attracted Zhuo Wen's attention. Then, Zhuo Wen discovered that the spacious open space in the square was occupied by a huge dragon-headed ship. Zhuo Wen recognized this dragon-headed ship. Wasn't it the dragon boat of the house of Marquis Qin? Last time, the 9th Commandery Princess came to Tingjia City on this kind of spiritual treasure. Did the house of Marquis Qin send someone again? Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed slightly. He couldn't help but slowly move closer to the God Stone Square. Among the crowd, he fixed his gaze on the god's stone square. At this moment, there were already 3 figures waiting quietly on the square. Zhuowen was no stranger to these 3 figures. They were the 9th Commandery Princess, Lingjiu, and Su Chang. Whoosh! A huge stone ladder was lowered from the deck. Then, a tall and straight man in a purple robe led a group of heavily armed guards down the stone ladder slowly. When the 9th Commandery Princess saw the man in the purple robe, her beautiful face revealed a trace of joy. A sweet smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She looked exceptionally charming. Zhuowen focused on the man in the purple robe. His heart slightly skipped a beat. He could feel a trace of powerful aura from the man in the purple robe. This aura was even stronger than that of Gu Yutian. In other words, the man in the purple robe, who was not even 20 years old, was actually stronger than the governor of Tengjia City, Gu Yutian. His strength was at least above the Earth King realm. Shifting his gaze slightly, Zhuowen focused his gaze on the other young man beside the purple-robed man. This young man had his arms crossed in front of his chest. The muscles on his exposed arms were knotted, and there were strange patterns engraved on his arms. Moreover, the young man carried a 2-meter-long saber on his back. This saber, coupled with the young man's tall stature, faintly emitted a savage aura. The red-armed young man's aura was equally powerful. It was almost on par with that of the man in the purple robe. Chapter 187. Lu Yuanhua. From the surrounding discussions, Zhuowen also knew that the purple-robed man who came down from the deck was called Lu Yuanhua, and was the 3rd son of Mu Qin Marquis. It was said that his strength had already reached the perfect Earth King stage, and was only a step away from reaching the Heavenly King stage. This person's talent could be considered as an outstanding genius even in the house of Marquis Qin. Beside Lv Yuanhua was a tall young man with a long saber on his back. His name was Su Mu. He was the eldest son of Marquis Baichuan and the eldest brother of Su Chang, who was always with the 9th Commandery Princess. As the eldest son of Marquis Baichuan, Su Mu had the qualifications to inherit Marquis Baichuan's position. At the same time, his talent was exceptionally terrifying. This person was 1 year younger than Lu Yuanhua, but his strength was comparable to the latter. He was highly regarded and doted on by Marquis Baichuan. Behind the 2 of them was a group of heavily armored guards. These guards were all full of energy. They held their heads high and their chests puffed out. Their strength was basically between the corporeal Yang realm. The leader of the guards was even at the human king realm. It had to be said that the guards sent by the house of Marquis Qin were existences that all warriors in Rotten Armor City looked up to. Truly imposing. Looks like the 3 marquises of the provincial capital are indeed extraordinary. This time around, I will have to be careful of these people after entering the ancient cave. Zhuowen gazed deeply at Lu Yuanhua and Su Mu, who were standing on the plaza. After whispering a few words, he quietly left the crowd. In the God's Stone Square, Lv Yuanhua and Su Mu walked down the stone stairs slowly and came to the front of the 9th Commandery Princess and her 2 companions with arrogant looks on their faces. "Third brother, you're really slow. It's been a few days, but you're still late." A clear and lovely snort was suddenly heard as a beautiful figure rushed over. Before Lu Yuanhua could react, he felt his right hand being hugged by someone. Lowering his head to look at the porcelain doll-like face beside him, the arrogance on Lu Yuanhua's face disappeared and was replaced by a trace of doting and helplessness. "Do you think your 3rd brother is a free man like you?" At that time, I still had a lot of heavy tasks to deal with. If it weren't for my father's order, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the time to do anything. Lu Yuanhua touched the 9th Commandery Princess' nose and said with a smile. The 9th Commandery Princess frowned. She smiled and said, "Since you're here, let's open the ancient cavern mansion now." In the past few days, Lingjiu had gone to the innate fiend Nether Eye to investigate and had already confirmed the exact location of the ancient cave mansion. "I think there must be something fun inside." "Oh. Have you found the location?" Lu Yuanhua saw Lingjiu nodding behind the ninth commandery princess and knew that she was right. He continued, "My father has already calculated that the restrictive spell outside the ancient cavern mansion will be the weakest after a month. Therefore, we can only open the ancient cavern mansion after a month. Moreover, the people from the Yongxing Marquis mansion have not arrived yet. We are not in a hurry now. Is that so?" The ninth commandery princess was a little listless after hearing this. At this moment, Su Chang had also come to the ninth commandery princess' side. He politely bowed to Lu Yuanhua and then went to Su Mu's side to talk with him softly. "Ninth sister. 3 days ago, I sensed that the purple gold door seemed to have been broken by someone. What happened at that time? And who was so bold to break my purple gold door?" Lu Yuanhua suddenly asked when he saw that the ninth commandery princess was a little listless. "Ah. That purple gold door might have malfunctioned. Nothing has happened these days." The ninth commandery princess was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on when she heard this. She was a little secretive. Looking at the ninth commandery princess's behavior, Lu Yuanhua frowned slightly. From her expression, he could see that the ninth commandery princess obviously did not want to talk about this matter. "Show me the purple gold door." Lu Yuanhua stretched out his hand and said lightly. "Oh." The ninth commandery princess reluctantly took out a palm-sized purple gold door from her qianquan bag. However, the purple gold door's surface was a little dim. Whoosh! Lv Yuanhua hooked his finger, and the purple gold door flew into his palm. As he looked at the purple gold door in his palm, his expression became increasingly gloomy. "Humph. All 9 doors have been broken. If I want to repair them, it will take me at least 3 months. I didn't expect that there would be such a bold guy in Rattan Armor City who dared to break my purple gold door. Ninth sister, who exactly did this to the violet gold door?" Lv Yuanhua's expression had already become rather ugly, and his eyes had also become extremely stern. The ninth commandery princess lowered her head and clasped her hands together as if she was a child who had done something wrong. Her watery eyes were now covered with thick mist. She looked so delicate and weak that no one had the heart to continue scolding her. Looking at the ninth commandery princess's appearance, Lu Yuanhua could not bear to continue scolding her. He sighed slightly and was about to say a few words to persuade her not to pursue the matter of the purple gold door when Su Chang, who had been standing beside Su Mu, suddenly spoke. "Third master. I know who broke the purple gold door." "Oh. You know? Tell me." Lu Yuanhua suddenly looked at Su Chang with great interest. "Su Chang, do you dare to tell others? Do you believe that I will ignore you in the future?" The ninth commandery princess suddenly tilted her head and stared at Su Chang fiercely. Hearing the ninth commandery princess's words, Su Chang was speechless. However, his eyes were filled with a trace of jealousy and anger. Thinking that the ninth commandery princess did not say anything because of Zhuowen, Su Chang felt very uncomfortable. It was the first time that he saw the ninth commandery princess being so protective of a man. This made his heart burn with jealousy. "Ninth sister, don't interrupt." Lu Yuanhua stared at the ninth commandery princess fiercely and then looked at Su Chang calmly. He said, "Continue." After calming down, Su Chang gritted his teeth and said, "It was done by a young man named Zhuowen. The purple gold door was broken by him." "Zhuowen? I have never heard of him." Lu Yuanhua said confusedly. In his opinion, the person who could break the purple gold door was at least a famous warrior. However, he had never heard of the name Zhuowen. Su Chang did not hide anything and began to tell the ninth commandery princess everything about Zhuowen, including the fight for the quota. Su Chang did not have a good impression of Zhuowen. When he told the story, he more or less smeared some of Zhuowen's deeds. This made the ninth commandery princess very angry. However, in the presence of Lu Yuanhua, she could not lose her temper. In the beginning, Lu Yuanhua did not pay much attention to the name Zhuowen. After all, he had never heard of this name. To him, Zhuowen was just a nobody. However, as Su Chang told the story, Lu Yuanhua became more and more surprised. Although Su Chang deliberately smeared Zhuowen's name, Lu Yuanhua was the son of Marquis Muqin. He was not so easily fooled. With his intelligence, he could instantly determine which parts of Su Chang's story were correct and which were deliberately smeared. When Su Mu, who was originally uninterested, heard Su Chang say that Zhuowen was only a 16-year-old boy, his face showed a trace of surprise. If what Su Chang said was true, then the person who broke the purple gold door was actually a 16-year-old boy. Interesting. I did not expect such a genius to appear in a small place like Rattan Armor City. Also, from what you said, this boy is extremely arrogant. He actually rejected Ninth Sister's invitation several times. I'd like to see what this arrogant brat is capable of. Lv Yuanhua's lips curled into an arc as he chuckled coldly. Looking at Lu Yuanhua's cruel smile, the Ninth Commandery Princess's heart skipped a beat. She knew that Zhuowen was going to be in big trouble. She quickly said, "Third brother, the purple gold door incident was caused by me. This incident has nothing to do with Zhuowen. Ninth sister, you don't have to say anything. I just want to see that arrogant boy. I won't do anything." Lv Yuanhua chuckled. The cruel smile at the corner of his mouth had already indicated that his promise of not attacking was most likely unreliable. "Since we have nothing to do now, let's go to the Zhuo family and see that boy," Lu Yuanhua said as he stomped on the ground and disappeared. Looking at the Lu Yuanhua who had disappeared, the Ninth Commandery Princess stomped her foot and glared at Su Chang. Then, she also dashed towards the Zhuo family. "Interesting. Second brother, let's go and see what's going on." Su Mu's lips curled into a smile. He stomped on the ground and disappeared as well. Lingju looked at the people who had disappeared. He shook his head and muttered to himself, "Zhuowen is going to be in big trouble. Those who are targeted by Third Master do not have good endings." After saying that, Lingju disappeared from the spot. As for the conversation between Lu Yuanhua and the others, Zhuowen, as the protagonist, naturally had no idea. If he knew, he would not have entered the trade fair so casually. In a spacious attic of the trade fair, Zhuowen and Master Kuraki sat opposite each other. Looking at the smiling Master Kuraki in front of him, Zhuowen asked in confusion, "Master Kuraki, why did you call me over this time?" "Ha! Your talent is really terrifying. How old are you?" "You are already a grade 2 Arcana Master. Originally, I wanted to wait until you became a grade 1 Arcana Master before I taught you the technique of refining crystals. I did not expect you to become a grade 2 Arcana Master in the blink of an eye. This is something I did not expect." Master Kuraki stroked his long beard and said with a smile. "The technique of refining crystals." Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard Master Kuraki's words. The greatest use of an Arcana Master was not only to attack with his mind power, but also to use his mind power to create crystals with strange powers. It was this technique that made Arcana Masters so respected. In fact, Zhuowen had wanted to learn it for a long time, but for the sake of his reputation, it was not appropriate for him to ask. Now that Master Kuraki took the initiative to ask, Zhuowen was in high spirits. "With the strength of your grade 2 mind power, if you learn the technique of refining crystals, you can directly create grade 2 crystals. When the time comes, I will take you to the Arcana Guild for a test. Then, you can officially become a grade 2 Arcana Master. At that time, you will be able to enjoy different treatment from before." Master Kuraki laughed. Chapter 188. Trouble Comes Knocking. The Arcane Guild was a very mysterious and powerful organization. Its members were basically made up of arcanists, and its influence was spread across the entire Heavenly Armor continent. Even the ruler of the Eastern Land, the Blue Dragon Hall, could not compare to it. However, due to the scarcity of arcanists, even though the Arcane Guild could be found all over the continent, the number of individual arcanists was simply too small. They were somewhat powerless against a colossus like the Blue Dragon Hall. However, the advantage of Arcana Masters did not lie in this aspect. Instead, it lay in their terrifying network of connections. Whether it was high-grade origin crystals or extremely powerful origin arrays, both of these were weapons of war. No matter which faction it was, they would not be able to refuse. After all, any high-level origin formation that an Arcana Master could casually set up was powerful enough to take on 1,000 enemies at a time. Thus, no organization would refuse a powerful weapon like an origin formation. In order to obtain the origin array, one naturally had to build a good relationship with the Arcane Guild. Therefore, although the Arcane Guild had very few members, its influence was probably much wider than the Blue Dragon Hall. Many powerful forces had received favors from the Arcane Guild. With such influence, even the Blue Dragon Hall did not dare to touch the Arcane Guild. The Qing Xian Empire was vast, and there were many branches of the Arcane Guild. In Muqin County, there was a branch of the Arcane Guild in a super city not far from Rattan Armor City. Zhuoan, Broken Rock City is the closest super city to Vine Armor City. There is a branch of the Arcane Guild there. To tell you the truth, the head of the branch there is my senior. Once you have mastered your knowledge of crystals, I will bring you there for a test. With your talent, you will definitely be valued by the guild. At this point, Master Karaki's face suddenly revealed a trace of pride. Even Zhuoan was moved. After listening to Master Karaki's introduction, Zhuoan once again discovered that the influence of arcanists could reach such a level. This also made Zhuoan eager to refine origin crystals. This jade slip introduces the basic knowledge of origin crystals and origin arrays. You can go back and take a look first. From tomorrow onwards, you will come to me to learn how to refine origin crystals. In my opinion, with your aptitude, you should be able to master the secret of refining origin crystals in a short time. Master Karaki said as he took out a jade slip from his sleeve and casually tossed it to Zhuoan. Zhuoan received the jade scroll. His expression was filled with unconcealable excitement. Zhuoan had long coveted the powerful might of the Yuan crystal and its rich profits. Now that he could officially learn the Yuan crystal method, even Zhuoan's heart could not remain calm. Creak. The tightly shut door was suddenly opened, and a beautiful figure hurriedly entered the room. The two people in the room were also startled awake by the sound of the door opening. However, when they saw the face of the person who had entered, they let out a sigh of relief. Master Kuraki looked at the figure in front of him with slight displeasure and said, "Guyu, why didn't you knock? Why did you come in without a sound?" At this moment, Guyu was dripping with sweat. The moment she entered, she ran straight to Zhuoan. Without saying a word, she grabbed Zhuoan's hand and said, "Zhuoan, you really are here. Hurry up and leave with me. Right now, you have to leave Rattan Armor City immediately. The further the better." Zhuoan was confused by Guyu's words. He subconsciously asked, "What's wrong? Why should I run?" At this moment, Guyu had also caught her breath. She immediately said seriously, "Marquis Muqin's third son, Lu Yuanhua, is currently at the Zhuo family looking for you. It seems that you damaged his purple gold door, so he came to find trouble with you. Listen to me, Lu Yuanhua's personality is cruel and capricious. If he finds you, I'm afraid you'll be in danger." Zhuoan was stunned. He immediately grabbed Guyu's shoulders and shouted, "You're saying that Lu Yuanhua went to the Zhuo family? This is bad. If it's really as you say, and Lu Yuanhua is capricious, if he can't find me at the Zhuo family, I'm afraid our Zhuo family will be in danger. Right now, I have to hurry back." As he spoke, Zhuoan used his movement technique and rushed out. "Zhuoan! You'll be throwing your life away if you go back," Guyu shouted as she watched the departing figure. On the other hand, Grandmaster Karaki's brows were tightly knitted together. He did not expect such a thing to happen. If what Guyu said was true, then Zhuowen's return to the Zhuo family this time would not bode well for him. As Zhuowen's master, Grandmaster Kuraki naturally couldn't sit idly by. He muttered to himself that Lu Yuanhua is arrogant and unruly. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to convince him with reason. It seems that I'll have to use my old friend's things. This old man won't let anything happen to Zhuowen. As he spoke, Grandmaster Kuraki released his mental energy. The powerful mental energy immediately lifted him into the air. Then, he turned into a black shadow and rushed out of the door, leaving behind a stunned Guyu. In the sky above the Zhuo family, the gigantic Cheng Long floated silently. An extremely powerful aura suddenly pressed down. On the deck, Lu Yuanhua and the others stood quietly, arrogantly looking down at the Zhuo family members below. At this time, the Zhuo family's martial arts practice field was already filled with people. Almost all of the Zhuo family members were gathered here, looking up at the gigantic dragon head ship in the sky with puzzled expressions. They recognized the dragon head ship as the house of Marquis Qin's Qinglong. However, they were puzzled. Why would the house of Marquis Qin target the tiny Zhuo family? Very soon, a white-haired old man with a solemn expression walked out from the crowd of the Zhuo family. Wherever he passed, the people of the Zhuo family would make way for him. The old man was the patriarch of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding. Zhuo Xiangding walked to the front of the crowd and looked up at the Qinglong. He cupped his hands and said in a clear voice, "This humble one is the current head of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding. May I know why the lords of the house of Marquis Qin have come to our Zhuo family?" Looking at the gigantic Qinglong, as well as the arrogant faces of Lu Yuanhua and the others on the deck, Zhuo Xiangding suddenly had a bad premonition. The colossal existence of the house of Marquis Qin was not something the Zhuo family could compare to. To put it bluntly, the house of Marquis Qin only needed to move a finger to destroy Rattan Armor City, not to mention the tiny Zhuo family. Below us is the Zhuo family. How can such a motley crew be called a family? You're making me laugh my head off. Su Chang, the Zhuoan that broke through the violet gold door that you mentioned came from this family. Do you think a family like this can nurture a genius that can break through the violet gold door's 9 gates? You're not lying to me, are you? Lu Yuanhua looked at the Zhuo family members below and sneered. Su Chang nervously wiped the sweat on his forehead and quickly smiled apologetically. "Third master, I wouldn't dare to lie to you. That Zhuoan did indeed break through the violet gold door. Lord Lingjiu was also present at the time. If you don't believe me, you can ask him." "Oh. Lingjiu, is what Su Chang said true?" Lu Yuanhua tilted his head and looked at Lingjiu, who was silent behind him, and asked. "It is true," Lingjiu cupped his hands and answered. "That's strange. The head of the Zhuo family is only at the initial stage of the human king realm. Is Zhuowen, who was nurtured by such a family, really that terrifyingly talented?" Lu Yuanhua chuckled. "Third brother. We don't have to deal with the Zhuo family specifically. Zhuowen is indeed very talented. He will definitely become a supreme expert in the future. Even if the house of Marquis Qin can't recruit him, we can at least build a good relationship with him. When he grows up, the house of Marquis Qin will benefit from it." The 9th commandery princess gritted her teeth and said bitterly. Originally, she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. However, things were going against her wishes now. "Ninth sister, you don't have to say any more. You don't have to worry about this. The violet gold door is a spiritual treasure given to me by my father. I don't want it to be damaged for no reason. Moreover, I have to spend a lot of effort to repair it. I can't just let it go like this." Lu Yuanhua waved his hand and said coldly. After saying that, Lu Yuanhua looked down at Zhuo Xiangding and said indifferently, "Is there a young man called Zhuowen in the Zhuo family? Now, call that brat out. I have some things that I want to consult him about." After Lu Yuanhua said that, the members of the Zhuo family suddenly changed their expressions. They didn't expect the house of Marquis Qin to come here for Zhuowen. Zhuo Xiangding was startled. Soon after, his brows knitted together tightly. He could sense that the tone of the person who had just spoken was somewhat unfriendly. He knew that the people from Muqin Marquis Mansion had come with ill intentions. Father. What should we do? This person seems to be the third son of Marquis Qin, Lu Yuanhua. I wonder why he is looking for Zhuowen. Zhuowen's uncle, Zhuo Baitian, suddenly came to Zhuo Xiangding's side and said softly. This person came here with bad intentions. I'm afraid he is looking for Zhuowen for no good reason. Fortunately, Zhuowen left early in the morning, so we can't tell anyone about Zhuowen's situation, Zhuo Xiangding said in a low voice. Why aren't you replying? To tell you the truth, your family's Zhuowen broke one of my favorite spiritual treasures, so I'm in a bad mood right now. Once I'm in a bad mood, even I can't predict what I will do. Therefore, you'd better hand over Zhuowen. At this point, Lu Yuanhua's tone suddenly became serious. If you don't hand him over, then your Zhuo family will be buried with him. When Lu Yuanhua said this, it immediately caused the members of the Zhuo family below to panic. Fear appeared on everyone's faces. There weren't many people on the Qinglong, but they were all abnormally strong. Many members of the Zhuo family found that there were several people on the Qinglong who were much stronger than the family head, Zhuo Xiangding. Moreover, the guards behind Lu Yuanhua were all at least in the corporeal yang stage. Chapter 189. Oppression. Looking at LV Yuanhua and the others glaring at him from the riding dragon, Zhuo Xiangding could only brace himself and step forward, cupping his fists and saying, Sir, Zhuo Wen is indeed a disciple of our Zhuo family. However, he is still young and his cultivation is not high. It should be impossible for him to have the ability to destroy Milord's spiritual treasure. Perhaps Milord is mistaken. Lu Yuanhua narrowed his eyes and coldly said, Old man, you don't need to quibble. The Zhuowen I'm talking about is a 16-year-old boy. I'll tell you clearly that the person I'm looking for is in your Zhuo family. If you don't hand him over today, don't blame me for being merciless. Zhuo Xiangding's face paled. His eyes flickered and a trace of ruthlessness flashed across his face. Zhuowen was the most talented genius in the history of the Zhuo family. Moreover, the Zhuo family's prosperity was largely due to Zhuowen's contributions. Therefore, Zhuo Xiangding would never hand over Zhuowen. Father. What should we do? Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian both came to Zhuo Xiangding's side, their faces filled with anxiety. It's impossible for this old man to hand over Zhuowen. It seems like this battle is unavoidable. Second brother, when you have the chance, sneak away and go to the trading center. Zhuowen is there. Take him and leave Rattan Armor City quickly. Our Zhuo family can't avoid this calamity. Zhuo Xiangding whispered a few words to Zhuo Dingtian, then straightened his back and looked at Lu Yuanhua fearlessly. LV Yuanhua's eyes narrowed as he looked down at Zhuo Xiangding, who was staring at him fearlessly. The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel smile as he chuckled and said, Looks like you won't hand it over. I heard that you are Zhuowen's grandfather. I wonder if that Zhuowen will choose not to show himself if I kill you. As he spoke, Lu Yuanhua glanced at the group of guards behind him and said to the captain standing at the front, Lu Sheng, kill this ignorant old man. Lu Sheng was about 30 years old. He had a resolute face and wore a huge heavy armor. He was in the perfection of the human king realm and was a direct subordinate of Lu Yuanhua. He was in command of all the guards on the deck. Yes. Lu Sheng knelt down on one knee and pressed his right hand gently on his chest. Boom! The powerful impact created a huge crater in the ground. Lu Sheng slowly stepped out of the crater. He looked at Zhuo Xiangding with an indifferent expression and said coldly, Ignorant villain, how dare you disobey the orders of the third master? Kill without mercy. After he finished speaking, a powerful aura burst out from Lu Sheng's body. Then, a huge yin-yang wheel appeared behind him. The powerful aura even froze the air. Looking at the powerful aura in Lu Sheng's body, Zhuo Xiangding's eyes narrowed and he muttered to himself with an ugly expression, Perfection of the human king realm? Second brother, remember my words. Eldest brother, come with me to face the enemy. The longer we delay them, the safer Zhuowen will be. Zhuo Xiangding's face darkened and he took out the gravity tower from his Jiankuan bag. With a wave of his right hand, a powerful origin energy was injected into the gravity tower. The gravity tower suddenly expanded and turned into a huge tower that was dozens of feet tall. It's actually a middle-grade soul treasure. I never thought that the tiny Zhuo family would actually possess such a soul treasure. This is truly shocking. On the deck, LV Yuanhua stared at the massive tower below as a look of astonishment flashed across his face. However, even if he has a middle-rank soul treasure, this Zhuo Xiangding is still no match for Lu Sheng. Lu Yuanhua quickly regained his calm and said coldly. Below, Lu Sheng was also rather surprised as he stared at the enormous tower floating in front of him. Evidently, he did not expect that a small clan in Rattan Armor City would actually possess a middle-grade soul treasure. However, this surprise only lasted for a moment before it disappeared. Looks like I can't underestimate you. However, even if you have a middle-rank soul treasure, it's only a matter of one move for me. Because, as he spoke, Lu Sheng suddenly took a step forward and pulled out a long golden spear from his Qiankuan bag. With a flick of his fingers, the long spear began to revolve in a spiral shape and a golden light suddenly flashed out. Because I also have a middle-rank soul treasure, you are destined to lose this round. The price for losing is death. Bang! Lu Sheng's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. With the long golden spear in his hand, his entire body was like a dragon. With continuous steps, he arrived above Zhuo Xiangding in an instant. His right hand tightly gripped the end of the spear and his left hand loosened slightly. The long spear was like a whip as it was violently flung towards Zhuo Xiangding. Whoosh whoosh. The powerful force seemed to tear the air apart as it emitted a rapid explosion. The long golden spear turned into a golden whip and instantly arrived above Zhuo Xiangding. Looking at the spear's shadow that was rapidly approaching, Zhuo Xiangding's expression changed drastically. Yuan power gathered in his hands and he immediately closed them inwards. The gravity tower above him immediately flickered with a black light as a huge gravitational force appeared around his body. When the spear's shadow was about 1 zhang away from his body, it was affected by this gravitational force and its speed suddenly decreased. Zhuo Xiangding calmly dodged the spear's shadow and his right hand withdrew. The huge gravity tower was like a meteorite as it smashed towards Lu Sheng, who was not far away. It can actually control gravity. What a strange soul treasure. Lu Sheng looked at the spear's shadow that had slowed down strangely. Immediately, he waved his right hand and the long golden spear shot out a golden light, violently colliding with the gravity tower. Rumble. A violent sound exploded in the air, and the aftermath of the collision even smashed out huge craters on the ground below. Air waves spread out in all directions along with the dust, like a hurricane sweeping away the clouds. Clang. A slight crisp sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, the members of the Zhuo family found that the gravity tower and the long golden spear that were originally facing each other in the void above suddenly trembled and the brilliance on its surface quickly dimmed. Puchi! Zhuo Xiangding suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face suddenly turned pale and his whole body flew backwards like a withered leaf. Sure enough, there is a big gap between him and a perfect human king realm warrior. This person's strength is much stronger than Lu Qingshang's, but this old man will not admit defeat just like that. In mid-air, Zhuo Xiangding forcibly twisted his waist and endured the backlash of his internal injuries. He fiercely urged his Yuan power to control the gravity tower that was also flying backwards to stop Lu Sheng, who was getting closer and closer. However, when he used his mind to control the gravity tower, he was shocked to find that the gravity tower did not respond at all. What's going on? Why is the gravity tower not responding at all? Puzzled, Zhuo Xiangding suddenly tilted his head and looked in the direction of the gravity tower. He saw that Lu Yuanhua, who had been standing on the deck, had unknowingly appeared above the gravity tower. At this time, Lu Yuanhua was holding a bowl-shaped spirit treasure in his right hand. A strong suction force came from the bowl-shaped spirit treasure. Under this suction force, the gravity tower was unable to move for a while. Even if Zhuo Xiangding controlled it with his mind, it was not effective at all. Old Zhuo family, your spirit treasure is quite interesting. Since you're about to die anyway, I'll take this gravity pagoda. Lu Yuanhua coldly glanced at Zhuo Xiangding and immediately formed a seal with his right hand. The suction force of the bowl-shaped spirit treasure in his hands suddenly increased and finally, under this suction force, the gravity tower was completely sucked into the bowl-shaped spirit treasure. Pooh! Seeing the gravity tower being taken away, Zhuo Xiangding's heart was filled with anger. His eyes turned red and his eyes cracked. He actually spat out another mouthful of blood. Lu Yuanhua, give me back my spirit treasure. That is a keepsake passed down from our Zhuo family ancestors. At this time, Zhuo Xiangding seemed to have gone crazy. He ignored the injuries on his body and suddenly rushed in the direction of Lu Yuanhua. Although the gravity tower was only a mid-level spirit treasure, it was passed down from the Zhuo family ancestors. As the keepsake of the head of the Zhuo family, it had a special meaning to the Zhuo family. As the head of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding could not let the gravity tower fall into the hands of others. Humph. You overconfident ant. Since I've taken your numinous treasure, that's because I think highly of you. Lu Yuanhua indifferently glanced at Zhuo Xiangding, then returned to the deck of the dragon with the bowl-shaped spirit treasure. When Zhuo Xiangding rushed out a dozen meters, a golden light blocked his path. Lu Sheng indifferently looked at the extremely miserable old man in front of him and coldly said, "Those who dare to offend the third master will be killed without mercy." As he spoke, Lu Sheng's right hand gripped the long spear tightly and fiercely swung it at Zhuo Xiangding's chest. Under the power of the long spear, Zhuo Xiangding was once again sent flying. After rubbing against the ground for more than 10 meters, he finally came to a stop. At this time, Zhuo Xiangding was extremely miserable. His clothes were tattered, his hair was disheveled, his face was covered in blood, and his eyes were dim. "Father!" Zhuo Xiangding's face suddenly changed. He came to Zhuo Xiangding's side and helped him up. Head of the family. Head of the family. When the members of the Zhuo clan saw Zhuo Xiangding being beaten into such a miserable state, a trace of fear appeared on their faces. However, none of them retreated. Instead, a group of people surrounded Zhuo Xiangding as they stared at Lu Sheng with enmity in their eyes. What a bunch of ignorant people. This is what you get for refusing to tell me about Zhuo Wen's whereabouts. However, since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Sheng's lips curled into a disdainful smile as he looked at the group of Zhuo family clansmen blocking Zhuo Xiangding's path. Golden Dragon Spear Art. As he spoke, Lu Sheng threw the long spear in his hand and pushed the end of the spear with his right hand. With the support of his yuan power, the golden long spear transformed into a giant spear shadow that was dozens of meters long. The blazing golden light covered the spear like a golden dragon. It cut through the void and swept towards the Zhuo family members. What a bunch of stubborn people. However, stubborn people don't live long. The Zhuo family is the best example. Lu Yuanhua's mouth revealed a trace of a cruel smile as he spoke lightly. Beside him, the 9th commandery princess's pretty face revealed a trace of pity. She did not expect that her third brother would want to destroy the Zhuo family just because of a spiritual treasure that could be repaired. Hee. The Zhuo family is finished. Su Chang said meaningfully. Whoosh. Chapter 190. Wrath of Zorwin Rumble. The 5-colored energy ball silently flew over and finally collided with the golden long spear. Following which, a violent explosion resounded. Colorful lights exploded in the sky like fireworks. Kacha. Amidst such an intense explosion, the golden spear that cut across the sky with an imposing manner began to crumble. The golden glow on the spear's body also dimmed. It fell from the sky and finally pierced into the ground beside Lu Xing's feet. It was as dull as ordinary metal. Looking at the dim spear at his feet, the smile on Lu Xing's face instantly froze. His pupils suddenly shrank, and a trace of disbelief appeared on his face. The golden dragon spear art has been broken. Lu Xing muttered to himself as he looked at the spear beside his feet in disbelief. On the deck, Lu Yuanhua and the others were also stunned by this sudden turn of events. They didn't think that Lu Xing's golden dragon spear art would be broken by someone. Who is it? LV Yuanhua's expression darkened as he turned his head to look, only to see a black figure rapidly flying towards them from afar. The 9th Commandery Princess heaved a sigh of relief. She seemed to have guessed something. She turned her head and stared at the figure who was rushing towards them. She was worried. She gritted her teeth and murmured, "Could it be that guy? This place is so dangerous, and he still dares to come back." The one rushing over was Zhuowen. When he was 100 meters away, Zhuowen had already noticed that Lu Xing's spear was heading straight for the Zhuo family. It was obvious that Lu Xing wanted to kill them. Therefore, Zhuowen had already condensed an ice-fire spell and intercepted Lu Xing's golden dragon spear art in the air. Whoosh! A figure suddenly tore through the void and quickly stopped on the martial arts practice field, revealing the delicate and pretty face of a young man. Is it really him? Why did he come back now? The 9th Commandery Princess clenched her fists and stared at the young man below. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Su Chang, who had been paying attention to the 9th Commandery Princess, became even more jealous when he saw her reaction. He sneered and said to Lu Yuanhua, "Third Master, the guy down there is Zhuowen." Oh. That inexplicable explosive attack just now should have been released by this brat. I didn't think that this brat could actually block Lu Xing's golden dragon spear art. However, the strange thing is that his aura is only at the 7th stage of the corporeal yang realm. Lu Yuanhua frowned slightly and said in surprise. Stage 7 of corporeal yang. I remember that he had just reached the 5th stage of the corporeal yang realm a few days ago. I didn't see him for a few days and he actually rose 2 levels. Lingjiu, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said in surprise. After Lingjiu said this, Lu Yuanhua, Su Mu, the 9th Commandery Princess, and Su Chang were all shocked. Especially Su Chang and the 9th Commandery Princess, they couldn't help but look at the young man below. When they felt that Zhuowen's aura was at the 7th stage of the corporeal yang realm, the surprise on their faces became even more intense. Elder Ling, this brat was really at the 5th stage of the corporeal yang realm a few days ago. Now, he has risen 2 levels in just a few days. Lu Yuanhua frowned slightly and said. If it was said that he didn't care about Zhuowen at the beginning, now that he heard Lingjiu's words, he had to take it seriously. Even he couldn't achieve such a speed of rising 2 levels in a few days. Actually, this brat was only half a step into the corporeal yang realm a few days ago. However, he entered the profound understanding realm at that time and his cultivation soared to the 5th stage of the corporeal yang realm. I'm afraid that the reason he could rise 2 levels in a few days must have something to do with the profound understanding realm. Lingjiu pondered for a while before speaking again. Profound understanding realm? This brat entered the profound understanding realm? Lu Yuanhua's pupils shrank. His right hand trembled as he stared at Lingjiu and asked. Regarding the mystic comprehending realm, LV Yuanhua was very clear about it. That realm was an existence that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. As long as one could enter this realm, it would undoubtedly bring great benefits to the warrior. In the house of Marquis Qin, among the younger generation, only his big brother and second brother had entered the profound understanding realm. Lu Yuanhua had never entered that realm. Now that he suddenly heard from Lingjiu that the ordinary youth had entered the profound understanding realm that even he had never entered, Lu Yuanhua naturally couldn't remain calm. Lu Yuanhua wasn't the only one who couldn't remain calm. Su Mu behind him also couldn't remain calm. In other words, Su Mu's expression was even more interesting than Lu Yuanhua's. Seeing the 2 young talents so shocked, Lingjiu sighed slightly and spoke again, Moreover, this brat stayed in the profound understanding realm for a full 4 hours. This means that this isn't the first time he has entered the profound understanding realm. Buzz! Lu Yuanhua and Su Mu's minds seemed to have been struck by lightning. They looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. They didn't expect that this wasn't the first time Zhuowen had entered the profound understanding realm. If this was really the case, then Zhuowen's talent was too terrifying. Third Master, Zhuowen's talent is something that even this old man has never seen before. As long as this brat is given enough time, it's only a matter of time before he becomes a top expert. Therefore, it's best if Third Master doesn't go too far. Otherwise, if you offend such a genius with extremely high potential, I'm afraid the gains won't make up for the losses. Looking at Lu Yuanhua, who was somewhat moved, Lingju spoke up for Zhuowen. Let's wait and see first. If it's really as you say, this brat's talent is extremely high, then I can make an exception and let him join the house of Marquis Qin. However, if this brat still doesn't agree, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Sometimes, just having talent alone is not enough. After all, there are many geniuses who die prematurely. One more won't make a difference. Lu Yuanhua's eyes flickered as he coldly snorted. On the training field, Zhuowen looked at Zhuo Xiangding, who was being supported by others, and cut an extremely sorry figure. Especially when he looked at the bloodstains on Zhuo Xiangding's face, a nameless fire burned fiercely in Zhuowen's chest. This was the first time he had seen his grandfather, Zhuo Xiangding, in such a sorry state. Furthermore, he was certain that if he had not arrived in time, Zhuo Xiangding and the rest of the Zhuo family members would not have survived. This was the first time Zhuowen had felt such anger since his rebirth. Although he had not stayed in the Zhuo family for long, he had already unknowingly treated the Zhuo family as his home. Furthermore, he had long since decided to protect this home. However, just a moment ago, the home that he wanted to protect was almost destroyed. The feeling of watching something precious being destroyed was something that Zhuowen did not want to experience a second time. Lu Yuan Hua, are you still a man? Since you are looking for me, why do you have to involve my clansmen? Could it be that everyone in the Marquis estate is so despicable? Zhuowen fiercely raised his head and stared fearlessly at the purple-robed man on the Chenglong as he shouted loudly. Once these words were spoken, the entire area immediately fell silent. Everyone looked at Zhuowen as if they were looking at an idiot. They did not expect that this little brat from a lowly city would dare to insult Lu Yuanhua, a descendant of the house of Marquis Qin. Could it be that Zhuowen had gone crazy? This little brat has guts. He actually dares to insult a descendant of the Marquis estate so bluntly. Su Mu crossed his arms in front of his chest and could not help but laugh. Lu Yuanhua fiercely glared at Su Mu. Following which, his expression turned cold as he looked at the youth below and coldly said, "Little brat. I will now give you 2 choices. First, kneel down and apologize to me and immediately submit to me. If you do, I may spare your life. Second, you will naturally die." Zhuowen chuckled coldly and said, "Lu Yuanhua, your intelligence is even lower than a dog's. Since I dared to insult you to your face, do you think that I will submit to you?" Good, good, good. Lu Yuanhua's face instantly turned a ghastly green as he said several good words. "Since you insist on seeking death, I will fulfill your wish. Lu Sheng, slaughter this little brat for me." Below, Lu Sheng slightly bowed and shot an unfriendly glance at Zhuowen. He chuckled and said, "Little brat, those who offend the third master never have a good ending. You and your clan will soon disappear from this world. Therefore, you should enjoy the few remaining days that you have left. You are merely a dog of the Marquis's mansion. What right do you have to lecture me? You were the one who almost killed the members of the Zhuo family. Therefore, you can forget about seeing the sun tomorrow." Zhuowen stood up and coldly stared at Lu Sheng. "Arrogant brat. You are still so arrogant even when you are about to die." Lu Sheng's face instantly darkened. Soon after, he lifted the long spear by his feet and fiercely stomped on the ground. In an instant, countless spear shadows danced and countless forces flew towards Zhuowen. I have said that you will pay the price. Traces of killing intent rose in Zhuowen's eyes. Following which, he stomped on the ground and a thick black flame instantly wrapped around his body. Finally, a sinister-looking black armor condensed on the surface of his body. Bang, bang, bang. With a light step, Zhuowen's body was like an agile monkey as he dodged Lu Xing's spear shadows. Soon after, the powerful mental energy in his Naiwen palace instantly transformed into a needle shape and fiercely shot towards Lu Xing. During the process of studying the 1,000-yen scripture, Zhuowen's mental energy had also reached the level of perfect second grade. He was only one step away from reaching the level of perfect third grade. It could be said that Zhuowen's mental energy was already extremely powerful. Lu Xing clearly did not expect that Zhuowen had mental energy. Caught off guard, the long needle formed by mental energy drilled between his eyebrows, causing him to be momentarily stunned. Good chance. Zhuowen also did not expect that Lu Xing would fall for his attack so easily. Evidently, Lu Xing did not take Zhuowen seriously. Therefore, he did not have the slightest bit of defense against Zhuowen's mental energy attack and was directly hit. Taking advantage of the moment when Lu Xing was in a daze, Zhuowen's foot suddenly stomped on the ground. After leaving behind a blazing black flame on the ground, he turned into a black shadow and rushed towards Lu Xing. The black armor on Zhuowen's body was covered with sinister-looking bone spikes. At first glance, he looked like a killing machine. If he was touched by these bone spikes, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Bang, bang, bang. In a flash, Zhuowen approached Lu Xing. His elbow easily smashed into the former's chest. The bone spikes on his elbow pierced through Lu Xing's chest and came out from his back. At the same time, Zhuowen's knee slammed upwards, causing Lu Xing's body to curl up. Following which, Zhuowen's right leg turned and viciously smashed into Lu Xing's arched back. Rumble. The huge force instantly sent Lu Xing crashing into the ground, creating a huge crater in the ground. Chapter 191. Attention. Li Yuanhua and the others on the deck were stunned when they saw Lu Xing being smashed into the deep pit by Zhuowen. They did not expect Lu Xing, who was already at the perfect human king stage, to be reduced to such a miserable state in an instant. On the other hand, the members of the Zhuo family on the training field fell into a strange silence. They had seen for themselves just how strong Lu Xing was. After all, even Zhuo Xiangding, who possessed a middle-grade soul treasure, was no match for him. But now, Lu Xing, who was incomparably valiant just a moment ago, was actually beaten down by the youth in front of them with a single move. This result immediately caused many of the clan members to feel that it was unreal. However, even more of them stared at the tall and straight figure standing in the distance with eyes filled with fanaticism. It seems that this old man has underestimated Zhuowen. With Zhuo Beitian's support, Zhuo Xiangding also witnessed the shocking scene from before. Looking at Zhuowen's back, a trace of pride suddenly appeared on his face because the young man before him was his, Zhuo Xiangding's, grandson. Damned brat! I want you dead! A roar suddenly surged out from the huge pit. Lu Xing struggled to get out of the huge pit. However, Zhuowen wouldn't give Lu Xing any chance. He knew very well that he was able to succeed by luck just now because Lu Xing didn't put him in his eyes, so he didn't guard against Zhuowen's sudden spiritual attack. If Lu Xing had been prepared, it would have been very difficult for Zhuowen to succeed. Then, Zhuowen wouldn't have been able to launch that series of attacks. Boom! Lu Xing punched the ground and stared at the young man in front of him with a ferocious expression. He let out a beast-like roar and stomped his foot. His entire body shot towards Zhuowen like an arrow leaving the bow. Just as Lu Xing was about to approach Zhuowen, he was shocked to discover that the latter's mouth had revealed a strange smile. Soon after, Lu Xing clearly heard Zhuowen's voice ring in his ear. My spiritual attacks are different from other arcanists. That's because I have 2 portions of spiritual power. That's why there's still a portion of spiritual power between your eyebrows that hasn't been activated yet. Lu Xing's eyes suddenly bulged, and his pupils instantly shrunk to the size of needles. Soon after, he suddenly realized that a sharp tinnitus had unknowingly started to ring in his ears. At this moment, he felt as if his head was about to split open. He actually stopped once again when he was about a meter away from Zhuo Wen, and his gaze instantly became lifeless. This time, you lost because of your carelessness. If you were on guard against me, you wouldn't have been taken advantage of by my spiritual power. But now, you're dead meat. Zhuo Wen murmured softly. His gaze suddenly became fierce. Immediately after, Zhuo Wen skillfully activated the holy symbol of icy fire and quickly fused it into an icy fire bomb overflowing with energy. The moment Lu Xing woke up, Zhuo Wen unceremoniously threw the icy fire bomb in his hand at Lu Xing's body. Boom! A huge explosion rang out violently. Then, the space burst into countless splendors as if countless fireworks had been set off. The huge fluctuations even set off violent gales in the martial arts practice field. It was as if countless blades were tearing apart everything in the area. Bang! When the splendor gradually faded, a figure flew out like a butterfly with broken wings. Finally, he suddenly fell 100 meters away and smashed a huge pit in the thick ground. Puchi! Lying in the huge pit, Lu Xing's entire body was dripping with blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. The thick armor on his body had been torn apart, revealing the wounds inside. Dang! 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 Zhuo Wen walked slowly to the huge pit and looked down at Lu Xing, who was lying on his back in the pit. His face was full of indifference. I said that you won't see the sun tomorrow. Now, I'm keeping my word. Zhuo Wen stretched out his right hand and unceremoniously grabbed Lu Xing's neck. He lifted Lu Xing off the ground and then said coldly to Lu Yuanhua, who was on the Chenglong. Lu Xing's face was covered in blood and his hair was disheveled. At this moment, he was coughing up blood continuously. His eyes were dim. Obviously, his injuries were quite serious. At this moment, he was lifted in the air by Zhuo Wen with one hand. His pale cheeks were flushed red and his eyes revealed a trace of humiliation. He was a dignified warrior in the complete human king realm and also the guard captain of the house of Marquis Qin. At this moment, he was defeated by a brat who was still wet behind the ears. Undoubtedly, his arrogant dignity was severely challenged. Seeing Lu Xing being lifted by Zhuo Wen with one hand and being unable to resist, the scene fell silent again. Whether it was the members of the Zhuo family in the martial arts practice field or the lofty Lu Yuanhua and the others on the Chenglong, they all looked at Zhuo Wen. In an instant, the atmosphere became extremely strange. Zhuo Wen. I will definitely kill you. I will definitely kill you. At this moment, Lu Xing's eyes were scarlet red. He was like a crazy demon. Being lifted by a brat who was still wet behind the ears with one hand was a serious insult to his dignity. Therefore, Lu Xing had lost his mind and roared crazily. Is that so? Since you want to kill me so much, I won't let a tiger go back to the mountain. Therefore, I can only kill you first. Zhuo Wen's eyes suddenly turned cold. He exerted a little force with his right hand and immediately caused Lu Xing to cough. Stop! Zhuo Wen, Lu Xing is the captain of the guards under my command. If you dare to kill him, you and the Zhuo family will not be spared. Lu Yuanhua's face was full of shock. He also noticed the trace of viciousness in Zhuo Wen's eyes. He was afraid that Zhuo Wen wanted to kill Lu Xing. Lu Xing was one of his few trusted subordinates and also his right-hand man. He did not want to lose such an important person because of this. Zhuo Wen. Stop. There is no need to make a big deal out of this. Otherwise, it will be really unnecessary if we fight to the death. The 9th Commandery princess suddenly spoke at this moment. She stared at the young man below and her beautiful eyes were full of complex emotions. Even she did not expect things to turn out this way. Crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking suddenly came from Lu Xing's neck. Lu Xing's head suddenly drooped strangely. Everyone was shocked and looked at Zhuowen who had broken Lu Xing's neck. They could not believe their eyes. Everyone was so silent that they could hear a pin drop. In front of everyone, Zhuowen's face was indifferent. He swung his hand and threw Lu Xing's body away. Patter! Lu Xing's body fell exactly 3 meters away from Lu Yuanhua. His head was strangely twisted and his eyes were wide open. He died with grievances. Zhuowen coldly glanced at the 9th Commandery princess who was still in a daze. He said indifferently, "Your Highness, you are right. When Lu Yuanhua wanted to kill the Zhuo family, it was already a situation where we would fight to the death. When Lu Xing made his move, did the princess say anything to stop him? Now that you saw your own people's lives being threatened, you said something to stop him. Aren't you being too partial?" Hearing this, the 9th Commandery princess's cheeks suddenly turned red. She clenched her fists tightly and her watery eyes became misty. Surprisingly, she did not refute. She knew that she was ultimately responsible for the current situation. If she hadn't taken out the violet gold door to make a bet with Zhuowen, there wouldn't have been such a situation where one of them had to die. "Zhuowen, you have successfully angered me. How dare you kill my guard captain in front of me? If I don't kill you today, my surname is not Lu." Lu Yuanhua's eyes were filled with anger and coldness. He stared at Zhuowen and said word by word. When Lu Yuanhua spat out the last word, an extremely powerful aura suddenly burst out from his body. This aura was far more powerful than Lu Xing's. It was like a 1,000-foot mountain that suddenly suppressed Zhuowen. Humph. As the pressure approached, Zhuowen's expression changed drastically. With a muffled groan, he took a dozen steps back. Looking at LV Yuanhua, who had an ice-cold expression on the Qinglong, Zhuowen said in shock, "Perfect Earth King stage." The moment Zhuowen exclaimed, the faces of the Zhuo family members in the martial arts practice field changed drastically. They stared in horror at the tall figure on the Qing dragon and the suffocating aura that was released by this figure. Creak. Under the pressure of such a powerful aura, Zhuowen's knees suddenly bent. Soon after, his eyes turned scarlet red as he forcefully resisted the pressure. The bones in his entire body continuously emitted creaking sounds as if they were under heavy pressure. What a stubborn person. Seeing that Zhuowen did not kneel under the pressure of his aura, the coldness in Lu Yuanhua's eyes became even more intense. The pressure of the aura grew stronger and stronger. Even the ground that Zhuowen was standing on exploded from the pressure. The yuan power in Zhuowen's body frantically revolved as he stubbornly resisted the pressure of the aura that made him unable to move. It was only now that he completely understood how big the gap between the human king stage and the earth king stage was. The current Zhuowen, even with the ice-fire sacred symbol as his trump card, was only comparable to an ordinary human king stage practitioner. The reason why Lu Xing was so easily dealt with by him was due to his mental energy. In addition, Lu Xing had underestimated him and was not on guard against him. As a result, Zhuowen suffered a great loss. This was the first time Zhuowen had witnessed the strength of an Earth King realm martial artist. Even Zhuowen was secretly shocked by the oppressive and suffocating aura. "Kid. Do you need this Dragon Lord's help?" With the help of the Spirit Restoration Flower, this Dragon Lord's soul origin has recovered quite a bit. "Naturally, I can lend you some strength now." Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "Don't make a move first. I want to see how big the gap is between me and an Earth King stage practitioner. If it really comes to a point of life and death, I can only rely on you. But now is not the time," Zhuowen said with a firm gaze as beads of sweat dripped down his forehead. He knew that there would be many young experts like Lu Yuanhua in the Vitality Tower battle 2 years later. Therefore, Zhuowen wanted to see how big the gap was between him and Lu Yuanhua. What a stubborn kid. However, it's up to you. It may not be a bad thing for you to experience more of this kind of situation. Xiao Hei's helpless voice sounded in his mind. Are you still not going to kneel? In that case, go to hell. Lu Yuanhua's eyes flickered as he grinned, revealing a row of white teeth. Chapter 192. True Ice Fire. Looking at the approaching golden palm, Zhuowen showed no fear on his face. Instead, he was terrifyingly calm. In fact, under this calm, there was even a trace of fanaticism. Although it seems like I'm overestimating myself, I really want to see if I can withstand the full-force attack of a cultivator at the Perfection Earth King stage with my current strength. The crazed look in Zhuowen's eyes grew even more intense as a surging battle intent rose from within his body. If he wanted to measure the gap between him and Lu Yuanhua, he could only do so by fighting with all his might. Whoosh! With a sudden clench of his left hand, one could see the black-colored armor on the surface of Zhuowen's body slowly disappear. It gathered on his left hand and transformed into a strange skull-shaped black flame. It was the Nirvana Demon Flame. At the same time, Zhuowen waved his right hand and the holy rune of ice on the back of his hand flashed out again. Endless icy blue cold air suddenly surged out and turned into a miniature blue eyeball in his palm. This was the cold air of the Heaven Fiend Nether Eye. Is this kid planning to use the real ice fire? I wonder if the real ice fire will be able to withstand Lu Yuanhua's all-out attack. Xiao Hei muttered to himself in the depths of his sea of consciousness as he looked at the situation outside. When the skull covered in black flames and the cold blue eyeball appeared on Zhuowen's hands at the same time, an extremely strange energy fluctuation immediately spread out. This fluctuation had both a blazing high temperature and a cold low chill, as if the entire space was in a world of ice and fire at the same time. This is, that move. The ninth commandery princess and Lingjiu looked at each other. They suddenly recalled the time when Zhuowen used ice fire to completely defeat Ying Hualan during the competition for places. The scene now was so similar to that time. Lingjiu frowned and said, "It seems that the power of this guy's move is many times stronger than the last time. Moreover, the two energies of ice and fire in his hands don't seem ordinary either." The ninth commandery princess bit her cherry lips. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry as she looked down at the young man who was holding the Nirvana Demon Flame in his left hand and the Heaven Fiend Cold Air in his right hand. She sighed and said, "Why is this guy so stubborn? Even if his current move is powerful, the gap between him and third brother is too big. If they fight, he has no chance of winning. What an overconfident fellow. He actually chose to fight head-on with third master. Hee, I'm afraid that even his corpse will be blasted into smithereens later." Su Chang's eyes were filled with schadenfreude as he laughed coldly. Originally, with his status and arrogant character, he would not care about Zhuowen, who was from the Zhuo family in a low-level city. To the Baichuan Marquis mansion, the Zhuo family and even the Rattan Armor City were like ants. Therefore, he always felt superior when facing Zhuowen. However, the ninth commandery princess' unique attitude towards Zhuowen and the great talent and strength that Zhuowen had displayed caused Su Chang, who was not very broad-minded, to involuntarily become jealous. As this jealousy grew stronger, it became a killing intent. What a pity. This guy has character and talent. If it was not for offending brother Yuan Hua, I'm afraid that even I would want to recruit him into the Baichuan Marquis mansion. However, it seems that this guy is going to die. Su Mu crossed his arms and shook his head regretfully. Is this the last struggle before death? However, I can clearly tell you that this is all in vain. Today, not only will you die, but your family will also be buried with you. Suppress him. The high and mighty Lu Yuanhua also saw the ice and fire energy in Zhuowen's hands. A trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. He snorted coldly and pressed his right hand down again. The golden palm above the void swelled a little more, and a ferocious aura immediately leaked out. The people could even clearly see the crisscrossing lines on the golden palm. Seeing that the golden palm was about to fall on Zhuowen, all the members of the Zhuo family in the martial arts practice field showed a look of despair. Even Zhuo Xiangding's face turned gloomy. They clearly knew the huge gap between the earthly king realm and the human king realm. The gap was as huge as a moat. Even though Zhuowen had killed Lu Sheng, Lu Yuanhua and Lu Sheng were not at the same level. The former was simply too strong. Whoosh! A strange sound suddenly erupted from Zhuowen's hands. Then, his hands turned into afterimages in the air and quickly came together. The moment they came together, endless five-colored sparks exploded. As the sparks flew in all directions, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly rose from the young man's palm. This aura was like a giant beast that was gradually falling into a deep slumber. In an instant, it spread throughout the entire space. At the same time, a five-colored ball floated above Zhuowen's right palm. The moment the ice-fire explosion was completed, the golden palm above the void was already less than 100 meters away from Zhuowen. Holding the ice-fire explosion in his hand, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with madness. Then, he suddenly swung his right hand. The ice-fire explosion was suffused with a five-colored luster. It cut through the void and fiercely collided with the golden palm. In an instant, the ice fireball and the golden palm collided fiercely in the air. The ice fireball shrank and suddenly expanded. Following that, countless sparks burst out from the sphere like a meteor shower. An uncontrollable explosion instantly exploded in the void. Boom! Destructive energy spread out from the empty space, causing ripples to form in the empty space. The huge Chenglong ship, which was the closest to it, began to tremble violently as the ripples spread out. Everyone on the deck was unable to stand steadily due to this tremor. Crack! A clear and ear-piercing sound suddenly reverberated throughout the entire empty space. Everyone's gazes shot towards the source of the sound. Soon after, these gazes were shocked to see traces of cracks appearing on the surface of the enormous golden palm in the empty space. As the ice fire continued to explode, these cracks were also spreading at a terrifying speed. Boom! After the final explosion, the huge golden palm in the void began to crumble inch by inch. Finally, it scattered a golden glow and disappeared into the void. Silence began to slowly spread and finally filled the entire space. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they stared blankly at the golden palm that had already turned into a golden glow. Drip! The sound of water dripping to the ground rang out. LV Yuanhua stiffly lowered his head and discovered that a wound had appeared on his palm. Cherry-red blood slowly dripped from the wound, gathering into a small pool of blood on the deck. Swish swish swish. Everyone on the deck was also attracted by the sound of water droplets. Their gazes simultaneously gathered on LV Yuanhua's palm. When they discovered that the sound of water droplets was actually blood dripping from the wound on the former's palm, the deck once again became silent. The third master is actually injured? Su Chang's hands trembled slightly as he uttered these words. The pupils of the 9th Commandery Princess and Lingju suddenly shrank. Their faces were filled with astonishment. They did not expect that Lu Yuanhua would actually be injured in the confrontation just now. Although it looked like a superficial wound, Lu Yuanhua's opponent was a young man who had not even reached the human king realm. Su Mu's expression finally became serious. Looking at the wound on Lu Yuanhua's hand, Su Mu's eyes flickered. Then, he squinted his eyes and sized up the young man below. No one knew what he was thinking. Below, Zhuowen let out a muffled groan as he staggered back more than 10 meters. After drawing a deep dent in the ground, he completely stopped. Puff! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands were badly mutilated due to the huge recoil of the ice flame. The backlash of the true ice fire technique is still very strong. Right now, I only have less than 1/10 of my yuan qi left. But now that I've unleashed my full strength, its might has exceeded my expectations. It can actually shatter the full-strength attack of a perfect earthly king stage martial artist. At this moment, Zhuowen completely ignored the injuries on his body. Instead, he was muttering to himself with a fanatical expression. Right now, your condition is much better than the last time you used the ice flame. Obviously, the recoil of the ice flame will become weaker as your strength increases. According to my estimation, once you reach the human king realm, it will not be so strenuous for you to use the real ice flame. Xiao Hei's voice sounded in his mind again. Zhuowen nodded slightly. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed. He tilted his head and looked at the Chenglong in the sky. An extremely terrifying aura suddenly emanated from the deck. You are actually able to injure me. No wonder Lu Sheng was defeated by you. It seems like his defeat was not unjust. However, the stronger you are, the stronger my desire to kill you will be. Today, you must die. At this point, Lu Yuanhua's eyes emitted a chilling light. At this moment, he no longer underestimated the young man in front of him. Being able to injure him with the cultivation of the corporeal yang stage already showed how terrifying the talent of the young man in front of him was. However, since he had already formed a grudge with Zhuowen, he had to completely strangle this genius, who could possibly become an expert in the future, in the cradle. Therefore, the killing intent in Lv Yuanhua's heart had already reached its peak. Zhuowen did not reply. Instead, he covered his chest and secretly guarded against Lu Yuanhua's actions. He knew that in his current condition, if Lu Yuanhua launched another attack, he would not be able to withstand it. Xiao Hei, it seems like I will have to rely on you later. Zhuowen whispered to Xiao Hei. He. Don't worry. If that brat Lu Yuanhua dares to attack you, with my current spirit origin, I will be able to protect your life. I can even help you kill him. Xiao Hei's unique and lascivious laughter sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Chapter 193. Arcane Guild Whoosh. A figure swept over like a meteor and finally stopped above the training ground. He looked up at Lu Yuanhua and said, "Young Master Lu, please show mercy. Zhuowen is a member of our Arcane Guild. For the sake of our Arcane Guild, I hope young Master Lu will let Zhuowen go." This figure was tall, with white hair and a long white beard fluttering in the wind. It was Master Kuraki, who had followed Zhuowen here. At this time, Master Kuraki was wearing a black and white robe. There were 3 golden stripes on the chest of the robe, emitting a dazzling light. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. The robe that Master Kuraki was wearing was the uniform of an arcanist. Only arcanists who passed the Arcana test could receive this special robe from the Arcana Guild. This kind of robe was not ordinary clothing, but a special kind of spirit treasure. Its defensive power was almost no weaker than a warrior's own armor, and its effects were even richer. The stripes on the chest of the robe represented the arcanist's rank. Master Kuraki's robe had 3 stripes, which meant that he was a rank 3 arcanist. A rank 3 arcana master. Lu Yuanhua's eyes narrowed slightly. He had also noticed the stripes on Grandmaster Tsung Mu's long robes. His eyebrows furrowed as he continued, "Although this person has quite strong mental energy, if you want to claim that he is a member of the Arcane Guild, you will need to provide the corresponding proof. After all, words alone are not enough." When Zhuowen saw Grandmaster Kuraki floating in the air, he knew that Grandmaster Kuraki had come to help him out of this predicament. However, Zhuowen was a little confused because Grandmaster Kuraki was only a 3rd rank Arcana Master. It would be very difficult for Lv Yuanhua to give him face. If it was a 4th rank Arcana Master, Lv Yuanhua might give him face, but a 3rd rank Arcana Master wasn't enough. However, when Zhuowen heard Grandmaster Kuraki mention the Arcane Guild, he understood the former's plan. The House of Marquis Qin was the most powerful force in Muqin County. Neither the Zhuo family nor Rotten Armor City could afford to offend such a behemoth. The only thing that could make the House of Marquis Qin afraid was the most mysterious Arcane Guild. If Zhuowen remembered correctly, Master Kuraki seemed to be a member of the Arcane Guild. However, what puzzled Zhuowen was that he had never seen the Arcane Guild before, nor had he passed the Arcane test. The current Zhuowen should not be considered a member of the Arcane Guild yet. However, Zhuowen since Master Kuraki, Zhuowen was the Arcana Studio Guild, Lu. After young Master Kuraki. Lu Ln's Master Lich Qin. Qin Master Kuraki, Lich was lain to Ln's Lu Studio. Master Lu Nn Luro Studio Ln Nung Ln Lich Nn Lu Master Lu Lich. Ln. This is Lich Master Nn is Nen. Master Lane. Ln is Master. You're just a little third-level Arcanist. How can you have such a jade token? Lu Yuanhua's pupils shrank. He seemed to have recognized the jade token in Grandmaster Kuraki's hand and could not help but ask in horror. Young Master Lu, you don't have to care about where this jade token came from. Since this jade token is in my hands, then I represent the Vice President of the Arcane Guild in Broken Rock City. Since I'm the Vice President, I still have the power to appoint an Arcanist as a member of the guild. Speaking of this, Grandmaster Kuraki suddenly stopped. He looked straight at Lu Yuanhua with a sharp gaze and said indifferently, or is it that young Master Lu would rather be the enemy of our Arcane Guild and kill Zhuowen on the spot? As the descendant of the House of Marquis Qin, young Master Lu should be very clear about the consequences if you kill an official Arcanist for no reason, right? Upon hearing this, Lu Yuanhua's face froze and suddenly became quite ugly. He knew that once this matter involved the Arcane Guild, even if he was the direct descendant of Marquis Qin, he was afraid that it would become complicated and difficult to deal with. Zhuowen, you're really lucky. You're actually related to the Arcane Guild. I'll let you go for today, but I heard that you're going to participate in the Battle of the Tower of Vitality in 2 years. Let's meet again in 2 years. At that time, perhaps no one can protect you. Glancing again at the jade token in Grandmaster Kuraki's hand, Lu Yuanhua knew that it was impossible to kill Zhuowen today. He could only snort coldly and leave the Zhuo family with the 9th Commandery Princess and the others. The 9th Commandery Princess glanced at him again before she left. Her eyes were full of complex emotions and a trace of guilt. Looking at Lu Yuanhua and the others who chose to leave in the end, Zhuowen and the Zhuo family sighed softly. Zhuowen knew that although he could still borrow the power of Xiaohe, even if he relied on Xiaohe's power to kill Lu Yuanhua, it would only make him offend the entire house of Marquis Qin. With his current strength and foundation, he was just like an ant to the house of Marquis Qin. If the house of Marquis Qin wanted to kill him and his family, it would be as easy as killing an ant. My strength is still too weak. This time, if Grandmaster Kuraki didn't use the Arcane Guild to help me out, I'm afraid I would have to fight Lu Yuanhua. Whether I win or lose this battle, I will completely offend the house of Marquis Qin. At that time, the Zhuo family may be exterminated because of this. Clenching his fists, Zhuowen's mouth showed a trace of a bitter smile. He knew that the reason why he was in such a situation today was that he was too weak and his foundation was too weak. Boy! Don't be too discouraged. The Battle of the Tower of Vitality in 2 years is your chance to soar. According to what this Dragon Lord knows, as long as you can enter the top 100 in the Yuan Energy Tower battle, you will gain the attention of Muqin Marquis. At that time, even if LV Yuanhua hates you, I'm afraid that Muqin Marquis will not allow it. After all, losing a genius is a huge loss for Muqin County. Moreover, your goal is to enter Jiaxin Academy. If you can successfully enter Jiaxin Academy, not to mention the small house of Marquis Qin, even the ruler of the Qing Xian Empire, Emperor Qing, will not dare to offend you. Therefore, the stronger you are, the safer your family will be. In his mind, Xiaohe also knew that Zhuowen was a little depressed at this time and comforted him. Zhuowen nodded slightly, a trace of determination suddenly burst out from his eyes. Xiaohe was right. As long as he was strong, the safety of the Zhuo family would be guaranteed. Zhuowen. Are you okay? Grandmaster Kuraki slowly descended from the sky and came to Zhuowen's side in a step, looking quite nervous. At the same time, Zhuo Xiangding, Zhuo Baitian, and the other members of the Zhuo family also gathered around, their eyes full of concern. Shaking his head slightly, Zhuowen smiled and said, It's nothing serious. It's just a little injury. Grandmaster Kuraki was quite nervous as he checked Zhuowen's injuries. After confirming that the latter's injuries were not too serious, he sighed softly and then frowned. How did you offend the people of the house of Marquis Qin? This kind of huge monster is not something that your Zhuo family can afford to offend. The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth curled into a bitter smile as he briefly explained the entire situation. After Grandmaster Kuraki finished listening, he softly sighed and said, "It seems like this matter is not your fault. Fortunately, this old man has this jade token. Otherwise, even if this old man intervened, it would be impossible for LV Yuanhua to retreat." Looking at the jade token in Grandmaster Kuraki's hand, Zhuowen asked curiously, "Grandmaster Kuraki, are you really the vice president of the Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild? Do you think that a mere third-grade arcanist like me can become the vice president of the Arcane Guild's branch?" To tell you the truth, this jade token was left behind by a close friend of this old man. At this point, Grandmaster Kuraki's eyelids drooped slightly, revealing a trace of despondency. It was obvious that he had recalled some sad past. Seeing Grandmaster Kuraki like this, Zhuowen did not say anything more. He knew that there was probably some unbearable past on this jade token. Since you're fine, this old man will not stay any longer. However, you still have to be careful of Lu Yuanhua. Although this old man used the Arcane Guild to suppress him this time, with this person's character, I'm afraid that it will be difficult for him to let this matter go. Also, from tomorrow onwards, you can come to this old man's trade fair. This old man will teach you the technique of making crystals. After gently patting Zhuowen's shoulder, Grandmaster Kuraki waved his long sleeves, and a powerful mental energy lifted him up. With a whoosh, he turned into a shadow and disappeared on the spot. As soon as Grandmaster Kuraki left, Zhuo Xiangding, who had been waiting by the side, approached Zhuowen. With the help of Zhuo Xiangding arrived in front of Zhuowen. His old face was somewhat ashamed as he said, "Zhuowen, it's all grandfather's fault for being useless. Every time there's a family problem, I have to rely on you to solve it." Looking at the haggard old man in front of him, Zhuowen's heart softened. He said gently, "Grandfather. What are you saying? I'm also a member of the Zhuo family. Should I not step forward when the Zhuo family is in trouble?" Good. As expected of my good grandson. Grandfather was going to pass on the position of patriarch to you in a few days, but your grandfather was incompetent. The gravity tower was taken away by someone else. At this point, Zhuo Xiangding let out a long sigh. His face was full of shame and helplessness. Gravity tower? Don't worry, grandfather. Grandson will definitely take back the gravity tower. Moreover, the humiliation that our Zhuo family suffered today will be returned to Lu Yuanhua. At this point, Zhuowen tilted his head and looked at the Chenglong that was gradually disappearing into the distance. His eyes were full of determination and unyielding. Late at night, the pitch-black curtain of night covered the entire sky like dark clouds that covered the sun. In a spacious loft in the city lord's mansion, Lu Yuanhua violently smashed the teacup in his hand and said coldly, "Who would have thought that the vice president of Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild would pop up in the end? If it weren't for the Arcane Guild, I would have personally crippled that arrogant kid Zhuowen." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.